Chapter 374. However, when Zhou Jie was about to enter the house, he was unexpectedly met with a strong repulsive force, which came from the law of space. While Zhou Jie was surprised, the middle-aged man sitting on the side suddenly turned to look at Zhou Jie and asked, "Who sent you here?" Hearing the middle-aged man's sudden question, Zhou Jie and the other two were shocked. They all looked at the middle-aged man with shock in their eyes. Zhou Jie, who was the closest to the middle-aged man, hurriedly flew back a few meters and stood with the other three. But then Zhou Jie realized that it was a joke. The middle-aged man could see them, which meant that he was at least an imperial emperor. However, they thought that the middle-aged man was an ordinary man, which meant that the middle-aged man's cultivation was unfathomable to them. Maybe he was an emperor realm expert. If that was the case, Zhou Jie and the other two's lives could be decided by a single thought. What was the point of being vigilant? Seeing that the middle-aged man did not show any hostility or even a trace of aura, Zhou Jie and the other two calmed down a little. Zhou Jie, as the representative, thought for a while and replied, "We are here to find him under the order of the ancient divine emperor." "Are you the ancient divine emperor?" Halfway through Zhou Jie's answer, he suddenly had this horrifying idea, so he asked the second half of the sentence. Zhou Jie's question surprised Zhou Qingxian. Although she could not sense the aura of the middle-aged man in front of her, she used to have a close relationship with the ancient divine emperor. If the ancient divine emperor saw her now, he should be able to recognize her. Therefore, she denied Zhou Jie's idea immediately, but she did not say it out loud. The middle-aged man raised his eyebrows slightly and then relaxed. He said, "I'm not the ancient divine emperor. I'm just a man who was supposed to be dead. Because of the ancient divine emperor, I'm still alive today. Therefore, the ancient divine emperor sent me to guard this place and wait for the arrival of his successor. I'm not allowed to leave this place before that. Do you know where the sacred emperor is?" Hearing the middle-aged man's words, Zhou Qingxian suddenly stepped forward and asked. He originally thought that he would obtain an answer, but the middle-aged man shook his head and answered, "I don't know as well. How could I possibly know the whereabouts of an existence like the Lord Divine Emperor?" Hearing this, Zhou Jie could not help but ask, "Senior, have you not reached the Emperor realm?" The middle-aged man glanced at Zhou Jie. "No, I'm just a little bit short. But this little bit has trapped me for hundreds of thousands of years. The difference between the ancient divine emperor and the ancient divine emperor." The middle-aged man sighed sincerely. "May I know your name?" At this time, the ancient divine emperor. Wang Sheng. The middle-aged man hesitated but still answered the ancient divine emperor's question. Then, the middle-aged man, who was the forgotten monarch, seemed to be impatient with Zhou Jie and the others' questions. He stood up and walked to the door of the house and continued, "His Majesty asked me to give you the thing under the house. Take it and leave. I will be leaving soon. If you have anything else you want to know, ask now." After hearing the ancient divine emperor's words, Zhou Jie and the others remembered that they should ask some questions about this place. However, it was better to wait until they got the thing that the ancient divine emperor left for them. The ancient divine emperor walked to the center of the house and quickly formed a hand seal. Zhou Jie was stunned when he saw it. He felt that he had seen it before. After thinking carefully, he remembered that it was an array hand seal. It was used to control high-level array formations. Usually, only array formations created by people with high attainments in array formations would have special array hand seals. After the ancient divine emperor formed the hand seal, the ancient divine emperor slammed it on the ground. Instantly, a black hole appeared on the ground. However, there was an item that emitted a crimson light in the hole. The ancient divine emperor waved his hand and the crimson item flew into his hand. At the same time, the crimson light dimmed and disappeared. "Take it." The ancient divine emperor threw the item to Zhou Jie without even looking at it. Zhou Jie took the item and saw that it was a dark red stone in the shape of a spider. Then, Zhou Jie sensed it with his mind. So that's how it is. Zhou Jie suddenly spat out such a sentence subconsciously. What's wrong? Zhou Qingxian and the ancient divine emperor asked at the same time. Zhou Jie did not mind the ancient divine emperor's presence. He said bluntly, "The places that the ancient divine emperor asked us to go to are all the same. However, I have a more detailed guide and can narrow down the range. This stone in the shape of a spider is the proof to open a passage. Only by entering that passage can we meet the ancient divine emperor. Otherwise, we can only wait for him to come to us." At this moment, Zhou Jie finally understood why Divine Emperor Yi Gu only had one of the 3 inheritances. First of all, Zhou Jie's inheritances could only be obtained by those who had learned the 18 staining falls or other similar secret skills, which ensured that he was qualified to be Divine Emperor Yi Gu's personal disciple. Furthermore, the drop of immortal blood ensured that only the juniors of Zhou Holy Ground were qualified to become Divine Emperor Yi Gu's personal disciple. Therefore, Divine Emperor Yi Gu was confident that he could find such a person directly. However, the other 2 inheritances were different. If Divine Emperor Yi Gu did not like the inheritances, Divine Emperor Yi Gu could lead the inheritances to a designated place, where Divine Emperor Yi Gu could observe them and deal with them. Zhou Qingxian and the ancient Divine Emperor nodded slightly. However, the ancient Divine Emperor was not interested in this at all. He stood there calmly and waited for Zhou Jie and the others to ask him questions. Zhou Jie put away the spider stone and asked the Wangxing monarch, "Senior, where is this place? Is there any danger if we go deeper?" Zhou Jie asked and pointed behind the Wangxing monarch, which was the deeper part of the continent. "You've asked the right question," the ancient divine emperor said. "This is the Void Origin Realm. To be precise, this is the outer region of the Void Origin Realm. It is also called the Outer Region." The Void Origin Realm? Zhou Jie and the other 2 frowned when they heard this. It was obvious that they had never heard of such a place. The forgotten monarch was not surprised at all. He continued, "The origin of nothingness is a place where countless treasures are hidden. It's also extremely dangerous. The sacred emperor speculates that it used to be an independent great world, but it was destroyed in a great battle at some point in time. There were many parties involved in the battle, and the strongest among them is probably a half-step transcendent. They're not much weaker than the sacred emperor." The ancient divine emperor seemed to be afraid that Zhou Jie and the other 2 were not aware of this, so he emphasized, "The ancient divine emperor was at the pseudo-transcendent stage. He was slightly stronger than the half-step transcendent stage. I encountered danger in the Void Origin Realm and was saved by the ancient divine emperor. The ancient divine emperor was kind and treated me well. He even gave me a new lease of life. He told me everything I know," the ancient divine emperor suddenly said with a slightly lost look in his eyes. Clearly, he was reminiscing about something. "Based on what you said earlier, it looks like the ancient divine emperor is currently in the Void Origin Realm and is waiting for you to find him. I don't know why the ancient divine emperor hasn't come looking for me. He must be unable to show himself easily because of some matters, so it's naturally inconvenient for me to go look for him. If you want to head to the Void Origin Realm, I'll make a map for you. I stayed there for a long time, so I know quite a few dangerous places. With your cultivation bases, you won't die there as long as you don't fall into any extremely dangerous places," said the ancient divine emperor. Zhou Jie was overjoyed when he heard this because they were indeed heading deep into the Void Origin Realm. Zhou Jie had obtained new guidance when he sensed the spider stone earlier, and it was only after he combined it with the guidance from before that he spoke those words. "Thank you, Senior." Zhou Jie hurriedly thanked the ancient divine emperor. The ancient divine emperor did not reply. With a flip of his hand, He withdrew a piece of light green paper from somewhere. After thinking for a moment, he began to draw on it. Very soon, patterns of light appeared on the paper, and they faintly formed images. In the end, the ancient divine emperor stopped drawing, and the patterns of light were all branded on the paper, forming a map. Chapter 375. Take it. After the forgotten emperor finished drawing the map, he tossed it to Zhou Jie. Zhou Jie took the map and immediately scanned it. He revealed a slightly surprised expression. He had thought that the map that the forgotten emperor had drawn so quickly would be relatively simple, but he realized that it was not the case. The map could be said to be extremely detailed. Only some places that the forgotten emperor was not very clear about were more rough, but it also indicated the danger level. There were some empty places that the forgotten emperor had not been to, but they only took up about a fifth of the entire map. However, at this moment, the forgotten emperor added, "The map I drew is not all of the inner realm of the void origin realm, but it is most of it. Excluding the empty places, I estimate that it has recorded about 2/3 of the inner realm. Try your best to follow the map. If you're lucky, you shouldn't be in too much danger." "Thank you, Senior," Zhou Jie hurriedly said when he heard this. The forgotten emperor looked at Zhou Jie and asked, "Is there anything else you want to ask?" Upon hearing this, the two of them looked at Zhou Jie, and Zhou Jie glanced at the map again. After thinking for a moment, he shook his head and said, "I don't think so, Senior." "Okay, then I'll be leaving." The forgotten emperor nodded and disappeared in the next second. After the Wangxing monarch left, Zhou Jie showed the map to Zhou Qingxian and Zhou Qingxian. He said, "The records here are very detailed, including the entrance to the inner realm, the way to enter, the possible dangers inside, where there are treasures, and so on. Let's study the map together before we take action." Zhou Qingxian and Zhou Jie naturally had no objections. The three of them looked at the map together in the room. A day later, Zhou Jie's group of 3 had left the Void Continent and entered the fog again. They found an entrance to the inner realm of the Void Origin Realm. The inner region of the Void Origin Realm was hidden within the boundless sea of mist. Once one reached a certain depth into the sea of mist, they would encounter spatial cracks. These spatial cracks were much more dangerous than the other places in the chaotic star seas because they were usually much deeper. However, the entrance to the inner realm just so happened to be within these spatial cracks. In truth, these spatial cracks should not have appeared in the first place. This was because the inner realm of the Void Origin Realm was created beneath the surface of the void. There was a fixed hidden entrance, just like the myriad ancient sacred world. However, just as Divine Emperor Ancient Yi had guessed, a great battle had taken place in the inner land a long time ago. Many places in the inner land had been destroyed, and most of the natives had died. The inner land had also been damaged, which led to the appearance of the space crack. Originally, the appearance of these spatial rifts would not only affect the outside world, but would also affect the inner world itself, causing the cracks to intensify until it completely collapsed. However, the creator of the inner land had added protective laws around it, which prevented it from collapsing. Instead, the spatial rifts were constantly being repaired. However, the rate of repair was just too slow. Every time the spatial rifts were repaired halfway, they would tear even more and then be repaired again. This cycle had not changed for countless years. Even if ordinary cultivators arrived before the spatial rift, they might not notice the strangeness of the spatial rift and discover that it was an entrance that led to the Void Origin Realm. However, Zhou Jie and the others had the map that Wang Xing had given them, so they were clearly aware of all of this. Thus, they waited for a moment before entering the spatial rift one after another. Zhou Jie's group had waited for a while in front of the spatial rifts because they knew that the spatial rifts would enter a relatively stable state when the laws of the Void Origin Realm repaired them. When they entered the spatial rifts now, the spatial storms inside would be very weak. An imperial emperor would be able to withstand them easily. Otherwise, with such a deep spatial rift, Zhou Jie's strength would be enough to kill him. 3 figures suddenly tore through space and appeared in the sky above a withered yellow expanse of the Void Origin realm, and they were 500,000 kilometers away from the ground below. These 3 figures were naturally Zhou Jie's group of 3. At the instant they appeared, a strand of terrifying energy from the laws of lightning started to condense, and it transformed into a thundercloud that enveloped Zhou Jie's group of 3 at a shocking speed. Zhou Jie's group of 3 instantly noticed and reacted to this with their cultivations. They practically exclaimed in unison, "The energy of the heavenly tribulation of the Void Origin realm." They hadn't even finished speaking when Zhou Jie's group of 3 had erupted towards the ground below. Even though the energy in the inner world was extraordinarily abundant and the spatial pressure was extremely great, making it difficult to teleport, they were still able to cross almost a tenth of the distance in the blink of an eye and successfully charged through the thundercloud. Rumble! However, 3 terrifying bolts of lightning still shot out from the thundercloud, piercing through the sky and striking Zhou Jie's group of 3 in the blink of an eye. Fortunately, Zhou Jie's group of 3 had been prepared. They had all set up their defenses, so they were only slightly injured by the bolts of lightning, allowing them to successfully escape the range of the heavenly tribulation. The heavenly tribulation of the Void Origin realm existed in many worlds. It was a method that the creator of the world had set up to prevent the creatures within the world from leaving. However, it would normally not be triggered by the native creatures. As a result, Zhou Jie's group of 3 found it strange that they would be attacked by the heavenly tribulation of the Void Origin realm. After a moment of thought, they came to the conclusion that the laws of the Void Origin realm were already in disorder, so it was only natural that the heavenly tribulation of the Void Origin realm would be abnormal. This was also why there were so many dangers in the Void Origin realm. Most of them were caused by the disorder of the laws. At the foot of a barren mountain hundreds of thousands of miles away from Zhou Jie's group of 3, a bald young man in a yellow robe suddenly looked up in the direction of the thundercloud with shock in his eyes. Although the thundercloud was very large, it was only a tiny black dot from where the young man in the yellow robe was standing. However, the young man in the yellow robe could clearly sense the waves of power emanating from it. Someone else is coming. I don't know if it's the people from the ancient star region or the monsters from the Star Devourer sect. However, due to an accident, I'm the only one left from my sect. I can't fight against either of them. It's better to stay away from them. The young man in the yellow robe frowned as he spoke. The next second, he disappeared from where he was. On the other side, Zhou Jie's group of 3 stopped tens of thousands of meters above the ground and spread out their mental strength to scan the surroundings. According to the map that the Forgotten Monarch had given them, they knew that the surface of the inner realm was actually the surface of a huge planet. Outside the planet there were some floating islands and the like. Many of them were the residences of powerful cultivators in the past. What they needed to do now was to locate their corresponding positions on the map, so that they could follow the route on the map and carry out the plan. However, the inner realm was very large. Although the map that the Forgotten Monarch had drawn was detailed and recorded many unique areas, each area that looked like a dot on the map was actually at least tens of thousands of miles in diameter and up to millions of miles in diameter. The location that Zhou Jie's group had entered could be said to be random. Whether or not they were in a place that was recorded on the map was unknown. How could it be so easy to determine their location on the map? Therefore, Zhou Jie's group of 3 scouted a radius of tens of thousands of miles. However, they found that the area they were in did not have any corresponding information on the map at all. It seems that the situation is not very good. Perception is also limited here. We can only fly all the way to find the landmarks on the map. After a while, Zhou Jie said. The other 2 did not find anything, so they could only agree. The group of 3 lowered their flying altitude and chose a direction to fly in. According to the Forgotten Monarch's reminder on the map, there were powerful native creatures in the inner realm. If they flew too high, they would easily be discovered by them and cause unnecessary trouble. In addition, they might encounter other dangers at high altitude. Therefore, it was best to fly at an altitude of not more than 100 meters. After flying for a while, Zhou Jie's group did not find anything marked on the map. They could not help but frown, secretly guessing that they had encountered the worst situation. They had entered an area that was not marked on the map. However, Zhou Jie's group did not find or encounter anything unusual along the way. Therefore, they maintained their original speed and kept flying forward. At some point, Zhou Qingxian suddenly spoke to the two of them telepathically. "There's a lake up ahead. Something might happen. Be careful. Do you want to go around it?" Zhou Jie immediately sensed the lake that Zhou Qingxian spoke of and hesitated for a moment before saying, "Then let's go around it." Although Zhou Qingxian was the strongest in the group, Zhou Jie's identity as the Holy Son of the Zhou Holy Land was the most honorable. Therefore, the other two still faintly regarded him as the leader. At this moment, as soon as Zhou Jie spoke, Zhou Qingxian and Zhou Qingxian immediately agreed and changed their direction slightly, intending to go around the lake and continue forward. However, at this moment, a tyrannical and powerful psychic energy wave swept over Zhou Jie's group, causing their expressions to change at the same time. "Not good. Let's go." Zhou Qingxian was the first to notice the movement in the lake in the distance. She immediately shouted and took Zhou Jie and Zhou Qingxian to the left at the same time. Chapter 376. In the next second, three huge purplish-black tentacles that seemed to be made of rock tore through the sky and chased after Zhou Qingxian like lightning. The enormous power emitted by the tentacles caused the extremely stable space in the inner realm to tremble. The speed of the tentacles was so fast that they caught up with Zhou Qingxian in the blink of an eye. This made Zhou Qingxuan's expression change again. After pushing Zhou Jie and Zhou Qingxian to the front, she quickly turned around and her natal divine weapon, Purple Abyss, appeared in her hand. Her sword turned into thousands of illusions and slashed at the three tentacles that were chasing after her. Clang, clang, clang. After three dull thuds, although the tentacles were unusually tough, they were still split open by Zhou Qingxuan's slashes. Thick, reddish-green blood spurted out from the wounds and fell to the ground like meteorites. After being cut off by Zhou Qingxian, the three tentacles immediately retracted like lightning. They were so fast that Zhou Jie was almost speechless. In fact, it was no wonder that Zhou Jie was shocked by the speed of the tentacles because the tentacles had obviously come from the lake in the distance. They were thousands of miles away, but they could catch up in less than half a second. Zhou Jie knew that if he was within 100 miles of the tentacles, he would not be able to react in time and would be hammered. This time, it was Zhou Qingxian who dealt with it. If it were Zhou Jie, he would not be able to cut off three tentacles in such a way. While Zhou Jie and Tianqi Emperor were shocked, Zhou Qingxian sent a voice transmission to the two of them. The strength of that monster should be equivalent to a late-stage Imperial Emperor. However, this place is dangerous, so it's better not to provoke it easily. Let's continue to take a detour. Okay. Zhou Jie immediately agreed when he heard that. Although Zhou Qingxian was a peak Imperial Emperor and it would not be difficult for her to kill the tentacle monster, there were dangers in the Void Origin realm that could threaten even a peak Imperial Emperor. Moreover, it was easy to cause large fluctuations in battle, which meant that it could lead to greater danger. If it was not necessary, it was naturally best not to attack. Not long after Zhou Jie and the others took a detour, the yellow-robed bald young man appeared less than 10,000 miles away from the lake. The yellow-robed young man was only passing by. He didn't sense the fluctuations of the battle just now. After all, he was still 20,000 kilometers away at that time, and he didn't deliberately investigate. At some point, the yellow-robed youth's expression changed, and then a dazzling golden light rose from his body. In the next moment, a black tentacle whipped him, and his whole body fell backward like a meteor. The tentacle quickly followed in an attempt to wrap around the yellow-robed young man, but the yellow-robed young man seemed to be unharmed. Facing another tentacle, the yellow-robed young man coldly glanced at it. There was a flash of golden light, and the tentacle that was about to touch the young man disappeared. After being cut off, the tentacle immediately retracted back into the lake thousands of kilometers away and returned to silence. The yellow-robed young man snorted coldly in response. With his hands behind his back, a reddish-gold light sword floated in front of him, constantly swallowing and spitting out terrifying sword chi that could destroy the void. It's so troublesome to get lost. In a few years that place will open. But I'm the only one left, and I don't even know if I can find it. If I can't, alas. The more the yellow-robed young man thought about it, the more annoyed he became. He heaved a heavy sigh, got rid of all distracting thoughts, and changed his direction slightly to continue moving forward on the other side. Although Zhou Jie and the other two seemed to be flying casually, their overall direction remained the same. Zhou Jie and the other two came here to find the ancient Divine Emperor, and Zhou Jie had a sense of the ancient Divine Emperor's location. Therefore, Zhou Jie and the others bypassed the lake and continued moving in the same direction. Not long after, an area of white fog appeared in front of them. Zhou Jie and the other two's expressions immediately changed. Their perception had been disturbed by the white fog not long ago and could no longer extend. Therefore, they came to see what was going on, but when they saw the white fog, they realized that they had found an area marked on the map. The ancient god Misty Forest. Zhou Jie was the first to speak, his voice full of solemnity. The ancient god Misty Forest was clearly marked on the map given by the forgetful monarch, and it was an extremely dangerous area. It was like a primeval forest, filled with all kinds of fog. The white fog in front of Zhou Jie and the other two was just one of them. It could only affect the range of one's perception, and there were other kinds of fog that had other effects. Of course, the danger of the fog was not worth mentioning when compared to the ancient god Misty Forest. There were all kinds of terrifying creatures in the forest, and one of the most irresistible creatures was the ancient god. In fact, the ancient god was not an exclusive creature, but a powerful universal creature. An adult ancient god could reach the strength of an early-stage emperor, and some of the stronger ones could even reach the strength of a late-stage emperor or a peak emperor. The ancient gods were usually solitary, and they were extremely warlike. They were extremely possessive of their own territory, so if an outsider disturbed the ancient gods, the outsider would usually be chased down by the ancient gods to the point of no return. According to the records of the forgetful emperor, there was an ancient god with the strength of a peak emperor in the depths of the ancient god Misty Forest. Moreover, the ancient god's body was extremely strong, and its vitality was extremely tenacious. Ordinary human peak emperors were utterly unable to be a match for it, and they were at most able to fight it for a while. Even if Zhou Qingxuan's strength was above average amongst peak emperors, she absolutely didn't want to encounter an existence like the ancient god, especially under the circumstances that Zhou Jie and the other two were with her. Zhou Qingxian followed Zhou Jie and said, "Let's take a detour. According to Senior Wang Xing's map, we are currently in a dangerous area. We have to be more careful in the future." In the map given by the forgetful emperor, the ancient god Misty Forest was undoubtedly a dangerous area, but a large area around it, including the ancient god Misty Forest, had also been marked as a dangerous area. After all, the forgetful emperor had not been to every corner of this place, so the map he drew was very detailed in terms of the large area, but if one was in this large area, then it was definitely not detailed. Therefore, Zhou Jie and the other two began to circle around the edge of the ancient god Misty Forest. Their target location was almost directly behind the ancient god Misty Forest. Half a day later, The yellow-robed youth appeared at a place where Zhou Jie and the other two had stopped. His body was surrounded by threads of golden light, and from time to time they would probe out and then retract, as if they were searching for something. 3 people? Strange, there are obviously 5 places, and Blade Xinghai's group has 7 places. Could it be that they have encountered an unexpected situation like us? The yellow-robed youth thought so, and after a slight flash of light in his eyes, he followed the trace of aura left by Zhou Jie and the other two. On the other side, Zhou Jie's group flew to a vast and boundless swamp, and they all frowned. According to the map drawn by the Forgotten Monarch, this was also a dangerous place, but the level of danger was still much lower than the ancient god Misty Forest. Zhou Jie and the other two naturally wanted to avoid all the dangerous areas as much as possible, but in the current situation, they had no choice but to go here. They had missed a point before, which was that they had to go in a general direction. In addition, at the beginning, they were not in the area of the map, so they could not plan the overall route, which made it very troublesome to take a detour. They might even encounter other dangers, so they could only pass through the swamp in front of them. Be careful, I will be responsible for the bottom half, Your Highness, you are responsible for the front half, and Tianqi, you are responsible for the rear half. In order to avoid danger, after flying into the swamp, Zhou Qingxian transmitted her voice to the two of them. In response, Zhou Jie and Zhou Qingxian responded and did as they were told. About a day later, the Tianqi Emperor's expression suddenly changed slightly, and he transmitted his voice to Zhou Jie and Zhou Qingxian. There is someone directly behind us, about 20,000 miles away. What? Hearing this, Zhou Jie subconsciously released his perception to explore the rear, but he did not find the person mentioned by the Tianqi Emperor. He was surprised at once. Someone? Not only Zhou Jie, but even Zhou Qingxian was stunned and puzzled, because she did not detect anyone behind them either. The Tianqi Emperor saw this and immediately explained, "After I comprehended the heart force, my mental strength also transformed into the paramount divine sense. When I condense the paramount divine sense to explore in an extreme direction, I can detect more subtle things at the same distance. Believe me, there is someone following us less than 20,000 miles behind us, and his cultivation is about the same as mine. He is a mid-stage emperor." Following us? Then let's wait for him, Zhou Jie said with a flash of understanding in his eyes. Chapter 377. Zhou Qingxian and Zhou Qingxian had the same idea. They agreed and communicated with each other. Then, they scattered in 3 directions and hid in a triangular formation. After Zhou Jie and the others hid for a full 10 minutes, a young man in a yellow robe appeared at the place where the 3 of them had stopped. His face was full of doubts. Strange, the aura disappeared here, but they couldn't have found me. Could it be? The young man in the yellow robe muttered to himself. His spiritual strength swept out and he wanted to check the surroundings carefully. But when his spiritual strength swept out to the surface of a foggy swamp 100 miles away, a powerful spiritual strength swept back and swept through his body in an instant. Oh no! The young man in the yellow robe was shocked. As he muttered to himself, his body turned into a red and golden light and fled backward. Where are you going? Zhou Qingxian appeared on the surface of the foggy swamp. She stretched out her finger and used the law of space. The young man in the yellow robe's flying figure suddenly stagnated. At the same time, Emperor Tianqi appeared above the young man in the yellow robe. He slapped down and turned into several icy blue energy that trapped the young man in the yellow robe. Zhou Jie unhurriedly appeared beside the young man in the yellow robe. With Azura illusory in his hand, he was ready to release it to trap the enemy at any time. But in the next moment, an extremely terrifying golden sword chi broke through the energy cage formed by Emperor Tianqi. The young man in the yellow robe, holding a red and golden divine sword, flew out like a meteor. Without saying a word, Zhou Jie threw out the Azura Illusory Realm. The Azura Illusory Realm turned into a black hole, erupting with a strong suction force, which reduced the yellow-robed youth's speed again. However, it failed to trap him. Seeing this, Zhou Jie's chasing stars and moon flashed. He appeared beside the young man in the yellow robe, as if he had teleported. As he withdrew Azura Illusory, he used the 9 changes of stars and punched the young man in the yellow robe directly. The young man in the yellow robe reacted very quickly. Countless golden sword chi burst out from his body in an instant. Zhou Jie punched several sword chi, and there was a sound of gold and iron colliding. Zhou Jie felt pain in his fist. He sighed that his body was not strong enough. He moved sideways and then raised his hand to activate the 6 Meridians Holy Bracelet. 6 Meridians Holy Sword, thousands of times. Boom! 6 terrifying sword chi suddenly appeared, forming countless crisscrossing sword chi between heaven and earth. And as the sword chi whistled, even the stable space here was constantly trembling. However, the yellow-robed young man's eyes turned cold at that moment. A golden light flashed in his eyes, and it immediately turned into a burning red-gold strange light. And powerful sword chi. The sword chi swept sword chi. That swept was. Tian Chi Emperor was attacking the young man in the yellow robe with his spear. When he encountered the sword chi halfway, he quickly burst out with his spear to stab at the sword chi. But the young man's sword chi was extremely terrifying. When Tian Chi Emperor's spear touched it, the energy armor on Tian Chi Emperor's body shattered inch by inch. Tian Chi Emperor flew back like a meteor, and a large amount of blood splattered. In the face of the young man's shocking sword chi, Zhou Jie immediately activated the shield transformation to defend himself. At the same time, he used the 6 divine swords to defend himself. However, the 6 divine swords were instantly thrown out of control. The sword chi slashed through Zhou Jie's body. The shield transformation trembled violently and dissolved most of the attack power. In the end, not much of the attack power passed to Zhou Jie. Under the 9 changes of stars, Zhou Jie felt almost nothing. What a terrifying killing intent! However, Zhou Jie felt a terrible spiritual force in the sword chi that almost made his soul collapse. If it weren't for the help of the heart-clearing bell, Zhou Jie's soul would have been injured. After releasing this terrifying sword chi, the young man in the yellow robe fled again. He did not dare to stay for even a second. However, when he sensed that Zhou Jie was fine after being swept by his sword chi, his pupils shrank violently. Stay here. Zhou Qingxian had already arrived behind the young man in the yellow robe. She caught Tian Chi Emperor's body and shouted at the same time. While shouting, Zhou Qingxian reached out and grasped the air. The young man in the yellow robe seemed to have been struck by lightning. His flying figure trembled and his speed dropped again. Then, Zhou Qingxian took a step forward and arrived in front of the young man in the yellow robe. With a casual wave of her hand, she knocked away the golden divine sword in the young man's hand and imprisoned him in the air. At this time, Zhou Jie and Tian Chi Emperor flew to Zhou Qingxuan's side one after another. Zhou Jie looked at the young man in the yellow robe coldly with a frown. Although Tian Chi Emperor had been injured by the sword chi and was bleeding profusely, it was actually only a flesh wound. What really caused him to be unable to resist the sword chi was the killing intent contained in the sword chi. Because of that killing intent, his soul was also injured at this moment, and his face was extremely ugly. Zhou Qingxuan's expression was also somewhat solemn, because the young man in the yellow robe's strength was really beyond her expectations. Although she was the first to appear, the young man in the yellow robe had already fled behind and happened to run into Tian Chi Emperor. She thought that Tian Chi Emperor would be enough to stop the young man. Moreover, there was also Zhou Jie, so she did not pursue at full speed. When the young man in the yellow robe attacked, she did not have time to react and blocked the attack for Zhou Jie and Tian Chi Emperor, causing Tianqi Emperor to be injured. Zhou Jie and Heavenly Cavalry Emperor were naturally shocked by the yellow-robed youth's strength. That was why Zhou Jie was frowning and Heavenly Cavalry Emperor's expression was so ugly. "Who are you? Why are you following us?" At this time, Zhou Qingxian lowered her head and looked at the young man in the yellow robe and asked. The young man in the yellow robe was imprisoned by Zhou Qingxian using the law of space. After a few futile attempts to struggle, he calmed down and looked up at Zhou Qingxian and the others with a trace of doubt in his eyes. He asked, "You are not from Blade Star Ocean and the Monster Alliance?" Zhou Qingxuan's eyes narrowed when she heard the young man's question, while Zhou Jie frowned and asked, "What do you mean? Which faction do you belong to? Why are you here?" Zhou Qingxuan's mind raced as she followed Zhou Jie and asked. Hearing Zhou Qingxuan's question, the young man in the yellow robe hesitated for a moment before saying, "I am Huang Yi from Floating Life Zone. The star-destroying Sword Emperor is my master. Since the three of you are not from Blade Star Ocean and the Monster Alliance, then this is just a misunderstanding. I didn't mean to follow you. I wanted to follow Blade Star Ocean and the Monster Alliance." While Huang Yi was speaking, Zhou Jie and Tianqi Emperor received Zhou Qingxuan's voice transmission. "I've heard of Blade Star Ocean and the Monster Alliance. They are both factions in the Central Universe realm. The Monster Alliance is notorious because it's an organization formed by many universe creatures. It specializes in opposing other races, including humans. However, its cohesion is mediocre, and it usually only provokes factions without Universe Emperor Realm Masters. As for Blade Star Ocean, it's a famous faction in the Central Universe Realm, and its leader is a Transcendent." As soon as Huang Yi finished speaking, Zhou Qingxian frowned and said, "Floating Star Zone? I've never heard of it, but you still haven't answered my question. What are you and the two factions doing here?" Zhou Qingxuan's question hit the nail on the head. Huang Yi had wanted to avoid this question, but now he knew that it was impossible. After a moment of hesitation, he replied, "It seems that the three of you are adventurers who came here by chance. Then there's no harm in this Huang telling the three of you. I was ordered by my master to come here to train and seek opportunities and treasures. Very few people in this world know about this place. Many years ago, several seniors from the Floating Life region, Blade Star Ocean, and Monster Alliance discovered this place by chance. After that, the seniors from our three forces agreed not to tell the outside world about the existence of this place. Every once in a while, our three forces would send a team to this place to train and search for treasures. I was one of the team members sent by my master this time, but my team was rather unlucky. Not long after we came in, we were attacked by a powerful creature and I was the only one left." After Huang Yi finished speaking, he suddenly thought of something and added, "Only those below the Universe Emperor realm can enter this world." After hearing Huang Yi's words, Zhou Qingxian and the others had their own thoughts. They quickly communicated with each other through voice transmission. Then Zhou Qingxuan's cold gaze fell on Huang Yi. She asked coldly, "Then why are you following Blade Star Ocean and the Monster Alliance? You're alone. You can't be thinking of robbing them, right?" Chapter 378. Zhou Jie's question could be said to have hit the nail on the head. It also made Huang Yi's idea of concealing his true purpose fail. Hearing Zhou Jie's question, Huang Yi's expression changed slightly, as if he was a little nervous. Although he quickly covered it up, it did not escape the attention of Zhou Jie and the other two. Immediately, the three of them looked at Huang Yi with sharper eyes. Huang Yi noticed the change in the eyes of Zhou Jie and the other two. He sighed in his heart, knowing that it was difficult to hide. So he thought for a while and asked, "Which force are you from? Or are you rogue cultivators?" Zhou Jie looked at Zhou Qingxian and turned to answer, "We are rogue cultivators. We came here by chance. So what?" Huang Yi's heart skipped a beat. The idea of deceiving Zhou Jie and the other two flashed in his mind, but he dismissed it in an instant. If Zhou Jie and the other two were outsiders, Huang Yi thought that he could deceive Zhou Jie and the other two based on his understanding of this place. However, he thought that Zhou Jie and the other two had not encountered any dangerous places along the way, so this should not be a coincidence. Although they said that Zhou Jie and the other two were outsiders, it could also be a trap for him. If his lie was exposed, he would be dead for sure. Therefore, Huang Yi thought quickly and said, "No wonder. It's true that the three of us came here to seek treasures, but we have an ultimate destination. We call it the Bound of Yellow World. The reason why I followed you was that I thought you were from the other two forces. Since I was separated from the people who came with me and lost my navigation device, I lost my way. I could only follow the people from the other two forces to the Bound of Yellow World. It's that simple." "The Bound of Yellow World. What's there?" Zhou Jie asked again, his eyes flashing slightly. Hearing this, Huang Yi hesitated for a while and finally answered, "There's universal energy there. If you can get a little of it, it's priceless. In a sense, it's even better than the Emperor weapon." Huang Yi thought that although he had told the truth, Zhou Jie and the other two might not believe him. However, after he finished speaking, he saw a hint of surprise on Zhou Jie's face. Zhou Jie quickly looked at the other two, and Huang Yi found that the other two had the same expression. At this moment, Huang Yi's heart thumped. He wondered if the three of them also knew about the Bound of Yellow World and came here for it. The reason why Zhou Jie and the other two were so excited at the same time was very simple. On the map given by the Wangxing Emperor, there was a place that was extremely dangerous but also contained great opportunities. It was called the Origin Source by the Wangxing Emperor. The Wangxing Emperor guessed that it was the core of the void origin, where there was energy that was close to the origin source of the universe. According to Huang Yi's words, the Bound of Yellow World was obviously the origin source, recorded on the map. As a matter of fact, that was not the only thing that excited Zhou Jie. After all, this was a place that was full of opportunities, but also extremely dangerous. After all, their goal was to find the ancient divine emperor, and not to search for treasures. However, as Zhou Jie compared the location on the map, he suddenly realized that the origin place, or the Xianwang world, might be the place where the ancient divine emperor was located. The reason why Zhou Jie could not be sure was that there was no standard distance on the map. If there was only one direction, it was naturally impossible to determine the size of an area on the map, let alone its exact location. "I've said what I wanted to say. I didn't mean to offend you. I hope." Before Huang Yi could finish his words, Zhou Qingxian suddenly reached out and pressed her palm in front of Huang Yi. Huang Yi was shocked, but he reacted quickly. He hurriedly stepped back. However, the difference in cultivation was too great. Even though he was at the same level as Zhou Qingxian, he still could not resist. Zhou Qingxuan's palm hit him and sealed all his strength. Noticing that his cultivation had been sealed, Huang Yi's expression immediately turned ugly. He opened his mouth but didn't say anything. He had cultivated for thousands of years and was no fool. The fact that the other party didn't kill him was already a very good situation. How could he dare to show his anger just because the other party had sealed him? "You can stay here for a while. I believe you have a way to break through my seal," Zhou Qingxian said. Then, with a thought, she moved Huang Yi to the depths of the swamp and set up the power of law around him. While restricting his movement, she also prevented the dangers in the swamp from killing Huang Yi. Of course, Zhou Qingxian did not forget to take away Huang Yi's space ring and his golden sword. When Zhou Jie took Huang Yi's sword into his hand, he found that the sword had a sword spirit. The moment it was about to enter his hand, the sword automatically erupted with a terrifying golden sword light that swept towards Zhou Jie. If it were not for Zhou Jie's fast reaction and the shield transformation, he would have been injured. Even without Huang Yi's control, the sword's power was still terrifying. Zhou Qingxian extended her hand and used the power of laws to forcefully suppress Huang Yi's sword. Afterward, she frowned and said, "This sword is extraordinary. It should be a Universe Emperor weapon, and it has a special inheritance seal. Huang Yi should only be given to use it, not the sword's true owner. To avoid trouble, the sword must be sealed, and its owner cannot sense it. Otherwise, although Universe Emperor realm experts cannot enter here, that does not include all of them. Otherwise, the Saint Emperor would not be here." Taking a step back, once we leave the Void Origin realm, the sword's owner will find us very quickly. I have a way to seal this sword. It should work. Zhou Jie pondered for a moment and said. Then, Zhou Jie flipped his right hand and a pitch-black Rubik's Cube appeared in his hand. "Wanjie Rubik's Cube, seal the realm!" Zhou Jie shouted. Suddenly, the Wanjie Rubik's Cube in his hand burst out with a black light and shot towards Huang Yi's golden sword like lightning. It rapidly enlarged, changed, and reformed tens of thousands of times in an instant. Waves of terrifying fluctuations appeared. Then, the Rubik's Cube swallowed the golden sword and quickly shrank. The golden sword was originally trembling madly to resist Zhou Qingxuan's suppression, but now it was suppressed by the Wanjie Rubik's Cube. Finally, it could not bear the burden and was completely sealed. Zhou Qingxian looked at the Wanjie Rubik's Cube with a hint of joy in her eyes. She immediately said, "As expected of a treasure refined by the sacred emperor. After the golden sword is sealed, I can't sense the power I used to suppress it at such a close distance. Put it in the space ring. It should be safe," Zhou Jie said. With a wave of his hand, the Wanjie Rubik's Cube was stored in the space ring instead of fusing it with his body like before. "Okay." Zhou Qingxian saw this and responded. After that, Zhou Jie spoke of his guest. "Right, Big Sister Qingxian, I suddenly noticed that Senior Saint Emperor's location is on a straight line with the source. I feel that it's very likely that it's not a coincidence. Your Highness means that the Sacred Emperor is in the source." Zhou Qingxuan's eyes lit up when she heard this. In this regard, Zhou Jie nodded and said, "Yes, according to the map and the guidance in my mind, we can better plan the route and avoid all the dangerous places in advance." In this way, Zhou Jie and the other two discussed the route. After determining the best route for the time being, they sped up and gradually rushed in the direction of the source. 2 days later, Zhou Jie and the other two were only a few million li away from the source. But at this time, Emperor Tianqi's face suddenly changed and he immediately transmitted his voice. "There are people in front of us. They seem to have discovered us." Hearing Emperor Tianqi's transmission, Zhou Jie and Zhou Qingxian immediately slowed down and said almost in unison, "What?" Emperor Tianqi's G-Realm Divine Sense was scanning a small area. It was very far away and very well hidden. Zhou Jie and Zhou Qingxian already knew this, but Emperor Tianqi said that they were discovered. This was very surprising because even Zhou Qingxuan's G-Realm Divine Sense couldn't detect them when Emperor Tianqi's G-Realm Divine Sense swept past. How could Emperor Tianqi discover them? At this time, Emperor Tianqi hurriedly said, "There are 5 of them. 3 of them are mid-realm emperors, 1 of them is possibly a late-realm emperor, and I can't see through the last one." He sensed my extreme realm divine sense, but they didn't come over. Emperor Tianqi hurriedly added the last sentence after he finished speaking. Chapter 379. I also sensed it, but there are only 4 of them? Zhou Qingxian said after Tianqi Heavenly Emperor. She looked at Tianqi Heavenly Emperor in surprise. Clearly, she was wondering why she could only sense 4 people when Tianqi Heavenly Emperor said there were 5 people. When Tianqi Emperor heard this, his expression changed, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. Then he exclaimed, "Disappeared! That person whose cultivation level I can't see through has disappeared into thin air under the detection of my extreme realm divine sense. Hearing their conversation, Zhou Jie frowned and tried to sense as well. With the foundation of the Heart Force secret method, Zhou Jie could also extend the range and strength of his senses in one direction. However, it was not as easy as Tianqi Emperor's supreme realm divine sense. It was as if Tianqi Emperor had a hand to stretch out, while he had to create a pole to reach something far away. As for Zhou Qingxian, because her cultivation was higher than Zhou Jie's, her soul power was stronger and she could sense farther. After Zhou Jie sensed, he also sensed the aura of the 4 people in front of him. However, because they were moving forward while Zhou Jie, Zhou Qingxian, and Zhou Qingxian stopped, the distance between them kept increasing. At this time, Zhou Jie could only sense 4 people, unlike Tianqi Emperor who said there were 5 people. At this time, Zhou Jie, Zhou Qingxian, and Zhou Qingxian looked at each other and saw the shock and surprise in each other's eyes. Zhou Qingxian said in a low voice, "If Tianqi's senses are right, then I'm afraid that one of the 5 people's cultivation is higher than mine. But I don't know why that person didn't attack us." Tianqi Emperor said immediately. Zhou Jie frowned when he heard this. He had a bad premonition, so he hurriedly transmitted his voice to the 2 of them. "Let's take a detour, and try not to meet those 5 people just now. Since one of them can escape our perception, then even if he appears near us now, we may not be able to detect him." Hearing Zhou Jie's message, Zhou Qingxian and Tianqi Emperor were shocked. At the same time, they cautiously sensed their surroundings. "Let's go." Zhou Jie, on the other hand, was not as nervous. He immediately called out to Zhou Qingxian and Zhou Qingxian before flying off in a certain direction. After Zhou Jie's group of 3 left, a thin young man with short blue hair and azure armor appeared in the sky above where the 3 of them had stopped. He gazed in the direction that Zhou Jie's group of 3 had vanished and seemed to be lost in thought. After a short moment, he took a step forward, and the space rippled slightly before he vanished on the spot. If Zhou Jie and the others witnessed this scene, they would definitely turn pale with fright. Because even Zhou Qingxian was unable to teleport in the origin realm of the void, yet this blue-haired young man had accomplished it with extreme ease. On the other side, Zhou Jie's group of 3 continued to move towards their destination. Their speed was much slower, and they did not encounter any dangers along the way. About half an hour later, they saw a pale blue sky in the distance and a muddy yellow land below it. The appearance of this scene shocked Zhou Jie and the other 2. If it was a simple scene like this, placed on a certain planet, even ordinary people might not think much of it. It would just be a purely unique scenery. However, in the eyes of Zhou Jie and the others, this world appeared to be a completely different world from the origin realm of the void they were in. It was a strange feeling, but it truly existed. "That's the bound of universe?" Emperor Tianqi could not help but murmur as he looked at the strange world. Clearly, he was shocked. "The origin realm is here. I can sense that the place that Senior Ancient One pointed to is in the depths of this place." Zhou Jie transmitted his voice to the other 2. His eyes fell on the depths of the origin world, but as far as his eyes could see, there was only a muddy yellow landscape. "Let's go." Zhou Jie called out again and took the lead to rush out again. The other 2 followed closely behind. There was indeed a layer of power around the origin world formed by the laws, which separated it from the origin realm of the void. However, this layer of power was like a bubble to Zhou Jie and the others. They could easily pass through it, but the layer of power would not break. Zhou Jie and the others carefully passed through the invisible layer of power and entered the origin world. Their expressions changed almost at the same time. "This?" Emperor Tianqi could not help but exclaim as he looked around in surprise. The reason why Zhou Jie and the others were so surprised was that after they entered this place, they instantly felt that the world around them was filled with a very strange power. This power even contained a trace of the laws. It had all kinds of attributes, including the opposite energy attributes of destruction and vitality. Therefore, Zhou Jie and the others could not use it at all. In other words, after entering this place, the three of them had no source of energy other than the energy stored in their bodies. They could not use the laws either. It was equivalent to their strength being cut by more than half. What a strange place! Zhou Qingxian could not help but say with her brows tightly knitted. Zhou Jie's eyes flickered slightly, but he still said, "Senior Ancient One may be in the depths of this place. Let's go in and take a look." Therefore, Zhou Jie and the other two continued to fly forward, but their speed was even slower. One of the reasons was that they were afraid of the sudden danger here, but more importantly, the strength of the three people was severely limited here, so their speed naturally decreased by a lot. After moving forward for a while, Emperor Tianqi suddenly transmitted his voice, "Someone in the west, they found us." Emperor Tianqi's expression changed as he said, "5 people are coming toward us. The strongest among them has the same aura as Her Highness. Let's go." Zhou Jie was about to speak, but Zhou Qingxian had already transmitted her voice. At the same time, she led Zhou Jie and the others to the east. However, the 5 people who were rushing toward Zhou Jie and the others were hot on their heels. The person in the lead was extremely fast. Zhou Qingxuan's speed was slowed down by Zhou Jie and the others, so the distance between the two sides was slowly closing. Not long after, Zhou Qingxian felt that the person behind her was less than 1,000 meters away. She immediately gave up flying and threw Zhou Jie and the others to the front. She turned around and shouted, "If you continue to chase me, I will kill you." Just as Zhou Qingxuan's voice trailed off, a tall black figure appeared about 100 meters in front of her, looking at Zhou Qingxian with disdain. Yes, disdain. The figure that appeared 100 meters away from Zhou Qingxian was a 3-meter-tall black giant. It looked like a human, but its entire body was black. There was a faint crystal light flowing on its body surface. Its eyes were rectangular and yellow. There were no eyeballs at all, only a condensed yellow light. At this moment, it was looking at Zhou Qingxian with an extremely contemptuous and disdainful expression. At first, Zhou Qingxian did not pay any attention to the black giant's appearance until she noticed the 8 purple stars between its eyebrows. "Celestial giant!" Zhou Qingxian exclaimed, a trace of unavoidable shock flashing in her eyes. In fact, Zhou Qingxian could not be blamed for losing her composure. The celestial giant was an extremely powerful cosmic creature. It was once known as the 2 giants of the cosmos, along with the ancient gods. It was a powerful creature that could cultivate to the cosmos emperor realm. When it was young, it had the strength of a star lord. When it reached adulthood, it directly had the strength of an imperial emperor. With its innate divine ability, it could surpass realms in the imperial emperor realm with a little cultivation. Zhou Qingxian could sense that the celestial giant in front of her was on par with her in terms of cultivation. Coupled with its innate divine ability, it was very likely that it was invincible among its peers, or even stronger. "It's good that you recognize my race. However, what you said just now made me very annoyed. Human, you're dead." The celestial giant looked at Zhou Qingxian with a trace of disdain in its eyes. As soon as the celestial giant said this, Zhou Qingxuan's face immediately darkened. Not far behind her, Zhou Jie and Zhou Qingxuan's expressions changed drastically when they heard this. "Remember my name. I'm Zack." The celestial giant spoke again, its voice like muffled thunder. The next second, Zack took a step forward and threw a punch at Zhou Qingxian without any fancy moves. Boom! In an instant, the sky wailed and the earth shook. Chapter 380. Zhou Qingxian had no intention of dodging Zack's punch because her pride would not allow her to do so, as an official disciple of the Zhou Holy Land, who was fortunate enough to receive the teachings of the ancient divine emperor, and who stood at the peak of the imperial blood realm, Zhou Qingxian had absolute confidence in her unrivaled strength. Even against the celestial giant who was known to be able to crush human cultivators at the same level, Zhou Qingxian did not feel the slightest bit of fear. Instead, she was filled with a monstrous battle intent. With the purple abyss in hand, Zhou Qingxian slashed out at the celestial giant's enlarged fist. This slash should have contained the law of space, but because the law of space was different in this bound of universe, Zhou Qingxuan's sword could not use the law of space, and its power was greatly reduced. Boom! This collision produced a terrifying power that shook the heavens and earth. After the collision, Zhou Qingxian could not help but fly back over 100 meters before stabilizing herself, a trace of shock in her beautiful eyes. On the other hand, the celestial giant Zack's body only trembled. After the fist's momentum dissipated, it could be said to be completely calm and unruffled. At this moment, Zack looked at the defeated Zhou Qingxian and said coldly, human, although the law of space is limited here and you can't use your full strength, I only used 30% of my strength in that punch just now. If you're so pathetic even now, my next punch will take your life." At the same time, behind Zack stood two creatures that were clearly not human, but both had human-like faces. At this moment, they both had mocking expressions on their faces, as if they were watching a good show. After hearing Zack's words, Zhou Qingxian and Zhou Jie's expressions changed slightly. Clearly, if Zack's words were true, then his strength was truly terrifying. Zhou Qingxian and the others were limited by the law of space here, and although their strength was greatly reduced, they still had at least half of their strength. Zhou Qingxuan's sword attack just now had at least 80% of her strength, but it was clearly not comparable to the 30% Zack said. In this way, Zack's full strength was much higher than Zhou Qingxuan's. Of course, there was no need to consider this point at all. As a celestial giant, Zack did not need to cultivate any laws, and his innate ability was not restricted by this place. Therefore, he could unleash 100% of his power here, while Zhou Qingxian and the others were limited in strength. Logically speaking, they would not be able to defeat him, so there was no point in calculating his true strength. Although Zhou Qingxian knew this very well, her pride did not allow her to back down. Moreover, she was not blindly confident. The secret technique she had inherited from the ancient divine emperor, the Starlight Body, happened to be a secret technique that strengthened her body. This made her feel that she could fight against Zack. However, Zhou Qingxian was worried about Zhou Jie and Emperor Celestial Knight. Therefore, she planned to stop Zack and take the opportunity to send the two away. When that happened, she would be able to escape. Thus, in response to Zack's words, Zhou Qingxuan's body began to rapidly change. At the same time, the purple abyss in her hand emitted a terrifying purplish-black sword light. "Let's give it a try." As soon as Zhou Qingxuan's voice fell, a crimson light burst out from her body and instantly covered her entire body, causing her skin to age as if it was cracked. She looked like the surface of a mottled planet. The first transformation of the Starlight Body, the Red Glory transformation. When Zack saw this, a trace of contempt flashed in his eyes. He took a step forward and threw a punch at Zhou Qingxian. This punch was obviously much more terrifying than the first one. When the punch was thrown, it caused the sky to change color. There was also an obvious spatial vibration and compression force rushing toward Zhou Qingxian, making her feel as if Mount Tai was pressing down on her. However, because this pressure came from all directions, she was not pressed down. Instead, she was imprisoned in the air by this pressure, unable to dodge. However, Zhou Qingxian did not choose to dodge this time. She took a step forward and the red light on her body turned orange. As she slashed with her sword, the light on the surface of her body turned yellow. Rumble! Even though Zack did not intend to affect Zhou Jie and the others, at this moment, before the collision happened, Zhou Jie felt a terrifying wave of pressure that felt like the end of the world. He had a hunch that this destructive wave would be completely released after the collision between Zack and Zack. If he was affected by it, he would most likely be injured. As for Emperor Tianqi, it would be even worse. Zhou Jie cultivated the 9 changes of stars, and his body was as strong as Zhou Qingxuan's. Not to mention, he also had the shield transformation to protect himself. In addition, his strength was not inferior to Emperor Tianqi. If he was injured by this wave of pressure, Emperor Tianqi would be in a worse state. Retreat. Therefore, Zhou Jie immediately sent a voice transmission to Emperor Tianqi and retreated quickly. Emperor Tianqi's awareness was not bad. He also retreated immediately. At this moment the collision occurred. A destructive force instantly erupted. Even Zhou Qingxian had to borrow the force to retreat and protect herself with her sword. On Zack's side, other than Zack, who only had his hands in front of his chest and did not take the initiative to retreat, the other 4 people's expressions changed drastically. They all retreated quickly. In the end, Zack was also forced to retreat by the wave of pressure. However, at that moment, he roared angrily and quickly stopped his retreat. Moreover, he took the initiative to rush toward the collision site and chased in the direction Zhou Qingxian had retreated. As he chased, the 8 purple stars between Zack's eyebrows flashed rapidly and soon began to rotate. His black body was suddenly surrounded by purple light, and he looked extremely mysterious. "Human, you can't escape!" Zack roared angrily, and his voice shook the world. It contained a great power that broke through the remaining resistance of the collision and transmitted to Zhou Qingxuan's senses. Zhou Qingxuan's expression changed slightly. Seeing Zhou Jie and Emperor Tianqi fleeing in front of her, she quickly sent a voice transmission to them to continue running as far as possible. She would soon catch up with them. Then, she turned around and slashed several sword rays in an attempt to slow Zack down. Zack sensed it and raised his hand to throw a punch. The terrifying power instantly destroyed Zhou Qingxuan's sword aura, and the remaining power continued to surge toward Zhou Qingxian. Zhou Qingxian shouted, and the light on her body changed again, from yellow to green. As she slashed out with her sword again, a destructive power was released and swept toward Zack. Bang! 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 Zhou Qingxuan's sword aura approached Zack's body, but it was instantly destroyed like a fireball thrown into snow. At the same time, there was a series of explosive sounds, but it still could not stop Zack. Seeing Zack fly in front of her, Zhou Qingxian did not panic. Instead, her eyes turned cold, and her body flashed, turning into countless phantoms. Zack's momentum paused for a moment, and then he seemed to have sensed something. With a thought, the purple energy around his body suddenly shrank, forming a suit of armor that covered his entire body. The next moment, countless sword auras slashed across the armor that had just formed on Zack's body, and there was a series of explosions. It was as if countless bombs had been detonated on Zack's body. Too weak, your attack is too weak. Zack endured the sword auras for a moment and laughed wildly. Then, he suddenly threw a punch. Pung! Heaven and earth roared again, but this time, the sound was much shorter, and the range was much smaller. Zhou Qingxuan's figure was forced to reveal herself when this punch landed, and she could not help but be sent flying. At this very moment, even with Zhou Qingxuan's pride, she had no choice but to completely dispel the thought of being a match for Zack. Just now, she had used her explosive speed to launch countless attacks on Zack using the nirvana form of the starlight body. Even his eyes and nose were not spared. However, Zack stood there motionless, and she was unable to harm him in the slightest. Under such an impeccable defense, what else could she do? Therefore, after this collision, Zhou Qingxian decisively chose to retreat. However, because Zhou Jie and Zhou Qingxian had not escaped to a safe distance, the direction that Zhou Qingxian chose to escape was slightly different from the two of them. Seeing Zhou Qingxian escape at full speed again, a cold glint flashed in Zack's eyes. He immediately roared with a voice transmission, "I said, you can't escape, only death." Before the voice transmission could be heard, Zack's figure shot out like a cannonball. At the same time, as the 8 purple star imprints on his forehead rotated, the purple armor on the surface of his body began to emit a deep red glow, and an even more astonishing power spread out from his body. The Celestial Giant's innate ability, Heaven and Earth Reversal. Chapter 381. As Zack used his innate ability, a powerful nomological power suddenly emerged, and this power was actually evolved from the chaotic energy of the source world. Zhou Qingxian felt it the most. At that time, she realized a shocking discovery in her mind. The power that restricted them from using nomological power in the source world was actually a chaotic manifestation of the universe's origin power. This also explained why she could feel the creation and destruction nomological powers from it. It was precisely because it was the universe's origin power that contained the origin of all nomological powers. At the same time, Zhou Qingxian realized that she was imprisoned by an invisible force. The next moment, she felt dizzy, and when she recovered her senses, she was surprised to find that she was where Zack had just stood, and Zack had run in front of her. Switched positions? Zhou Qingxian realized the result of Zack's ability, and her pupils could not help but shrink as she exclaimed in her heart. At the same time, Zack had already revealed a sneer. He took a step toward Zhou Qingxian and punched again. Although Zhou Qingxian was shocked by Zack's ability, her reaction was not slow. The purple abyss in her hand bloomed with brilliance, and she stabbed it straight at Zack's approaching fist. Boom! In this collision, Zhou Qingxian was even more inferior. The purple abyss almost flew out of her hand, and she flew backward like a meteor. However, the 4 people who were with Zack were so frightened that they hurriedly retreated. Zhou Qingxian was a peak Imperial Emperor after all. Even if she was restricted here, she still had the strength of a peak Imperial Emperor. The reason she could not defeat Zack was because Zack was too strong, and not because Zhou Qingxian was too weak. The 4 people with Zack knew Zack's strength, and naturally knew that they were no match for Zhou Qingxian, so they did not dare to approach her. After sending Zhou Qingxian flying with a punch, Zack's face became even more fierce. He took another step forward and punched Zhou Qingxian 5 times in a row across the air. Zhou Qingxian stopped her retreat. Seeing this, a look of determination appeared in her eyes. At the same time, her brows suddenly split open, and a dense milky white light burst out, instantly enveloping her whole body. Finally, it condensed into a bright white female armor on her body. Behind this armor, there was a pair of huge grayish-white wings. They did not look like they were condensed from energy, but like real bird feathers. Zhou Qingxuan's transformation was because she had used her only life-saving magic treasure, the Feather of the Light Emperor. The Feather of the Light Emperor was an Emperor-level treasure, but its preciousness was not inferior to the Imperial Universe artifact. The reason why it was only rated Emperor level was because it could only be used 7 times. Every time the Feather of the Light Emperor was used, it could draw on the power of the Light Emperor. Not only would it protect the user, but it could also be used to launch an attack. When Zhou Qingxian obtained this treasure in the early years, she still had 3 chances to use it. Now, she only had 2 chances left. It could be said that she would not use it unless it was absolutely necessary. She did not use it when facing the Emperor's Sentinel. On one hand, it was because she had other choices, and on the other hand, she knew that with the Emperor's Sentinel's means, even if she used it, she would not be able to kill him. After all, she was not the only one who had a life-saving magic treasure. However, at this moment of life and death, Zhou Qingxian did not care so much. When activating the Feather of the Light Emperor, most of the power released would be turned into armor to protect the user, and only a small part of the power would be turned into an attack. Therefore, it would at most have the power to repel a perfected Emperor's attack. Even a powerful peak Emperor like Zack would at most be repelled and suffer some minor injuries. However, Zhou Qingxian did not think that she could kill Zack. After all, with the Celestial Giant's innate divine ability and his powerful divine body, even an ordinary perfected Emperor would not be able to kill Zack. At most, they would be able to suppress him. What she wanted was the protective power after the Feather of the Light Emperor was released, as well as the illusory Feather of the Light Emperor. What was the use of the Light Emperor's wings? Nonsense, of course, it was used to fly and escape. With the illusory Feather of the Light Emperor, Zhou Qingxian was 100% confident that she could leave Zack far behind. After using the Feather of the Light Emperor, Zhou Qingxian put on the illusory armor and pointed her finger. A beam of dense white light flew toward Zack. Zack's pupil shrank when he saw this. He opened his mouth and spat out a purplish-black small axe. The moment it left his mouth, the small axe's size skyrocketed by tens of thousands of times. Soon, it turned into a giant axe that could split the sky. The moment the axe appeared, a terrifying and destructive energy was released. The white light that Zhou Qingxian had shot out instantly crumbled and disappeared. However, Zhou Qingxian did not care about any of this. She had already flapped her wings and flew to the side. Her speed was more than 3 times faster than before. In the blink of an eye, she appeared thousands of miles away. Zack did not show any surprise at this. With a cold expression, he released his maximum strength into the giant axe with his fist. After the giant axe absorbed this strength, it immediately transformed into 8-star purple light spots. The light spots quickly dissipated and turned into an axe light that chased after Zhou Qingxian. Zack's giant axe was personally refined and given to him by a super expert of the Monster Alliance. It was only a supreme-grade Emperor weapon. However, after it became Zack's natal divine weapon, it could rival some Emperor weapons. If Zack's cultivation could improve further and reach the perfected Emperor realm, this giant axe could truly reach the level of an Emperor weapon. From this, one could see how powerful this axe was. Now that Zack had activated his natal divine weapon, the giant axe, to attack with all his strength, it was almost his strongest move without harming himself. He wanted to kill Zhou Qingxian directly. Under such circumstances, even if Zhou Qingxian had the protection of the Feather of the Brightness Emperor, she would definitely be injured if she was hit by this attack. Zack also took into account that Zhou Qingxuan's protective energy was extremely strong. His attack would definitely not be able to kill her. Therefore, after launching this attack, he took a step forward and chased after her with his axe. Zack had always been a man of his word. If he said he wanted to kill Zhou Qingxian, he would definitely kill her. However, just as Zack was about to move again, a red light flashed from far away like a bolt of lightning. It first passed over Zhou Qingxuan's head, causing her beautiful eyes to widen in shock. Following that, it pierced through Zack's attack, instantly shattering it. After that, it closed in on Zack. This is? At that moment, Zack's expression changed drastically. However, just as his expression changed, Zack's hand had already reacted. The giant axe was placed in front of him to block, and his body turned to the side. Bang! Following which, Zack felt an unparalleled force as traces of red light drilled into his body, rapidly destroying his body. There were even some red lights that entered his soul realm, causing his soul to tremble violently. At that moment, Zack let out a miserable shriek as he was smashed to the ground. What is that? On the other side, Zhou Qingxian continued to flee. She could not help but recall the red light that flashed over her head. That was a force that made her tremble in fear. Although it only brushed past her, her perception was instantly annihilated the moment it came into contact with the red light. This was the first time Zhou Qingxian had encountered such a situation after living for so long. On the other side, after Zack landed, His natal divine weapon was thrown to the ground and deeply embedded into the ground, causing the earth to tremble incessantly. At this moment, Zack's 4 companions were shocked. They all flew to the side of the deep pit where Zack was. Sensing that Zack's aura was still there, they all breathed a sigh of relief. Moreover, Zack's soul realm was invaded by the red light, causing his soul to suffer great damage. Fortunately, the red light was exhausted in the end, and he woke up. The entire process only took about a second. Zack opened his eyes. His dark yellow eyes had traces of blood. At this moment, his expression was extremely ugly. The illusory armor on his body had been destroyed and dissipated, revealing his body that was riddled with scars. There was even black smoke coming out of his body. Supreme divine sense. Isn't that thing in the depths of the bounded universe? Why did it run to the periphery? Could it be that I caused too much of a commotion just now? Damn it, Master didn't tell me about this situation. It's just that this supreme divine sense is not to be trifled with. It's too scary. Zack thought to himself. The corner of his mouth could not help but twitch slightly. Then, he adjusted his breathing and flew out of the huge pit that he had created. Boss, are you okay? As soon as Zack appeared, a cosmic creature covered in green scales asked with concern. In this group, it was the only brother that had known Zack for many years. Zack glanced at the scaled creature and replied, "I'm fine." Then, he explained, that red light just now should be the most dangerous supreme divine sense in this place. Master told me that I can only encounter it in certain places in the depths of this place. Those places must not be approached. Also, as I told you before, do not fly too high. Otherwise, you will be attacked by the supreme divine sense. But the situation just now. Perhaps I caused too much of a commotion and let that human get away. Chapter 382. Due to the attack of the Paramount Realm Consciousness, Zack was unable to continue pursuing Zhou Qingxian. Zhou Qingxian was able to escape, and she quickly used the connection between herself and Heavenly Knight Emperor to find Zhou Jie and Zhou Qingxian. As Zhou Qingxuan's follower, Heavenly Knight Emperor had already offered up a strand of his soul origin, allowing Zhou Qingxian to sense his location. With this strand of soul origin, Zhou Qingxian only needed a thought to heavily injure Heavenly Knight Emperor. Although it would not kill him, it would take him a very long time to recover. Of course, Zhou Qingxian did not ask Tianqi Emperor to offer up his soul origin in the beginning. It was only after Tianqi Emperor had repeatedly begged her that she accepted it. The reason Zhou Qingxian did not return it was because she wanted to use it to sense Tianqi Emperor's location and make it easier to contact him. When Zhou Qingxian found Zhou Jie and Tianqi Emperor, they were beside a protruding boulder. As the earth and rocks here could interfere with one's perception, if Zhou Qingxian did not rely on Tianqi Emperor's soul origin to sense them, she would not be able to sense them even if she flew 100 meters away from the boulder. As soon as Zhou Qingxian appeared, Zhou Jie sensed her presence and quickly turned to look. He stood up and shouted, "Sister Qingxian. Lady Empress, how are you? Are you all right?" Tianqi Emperor also stood up and asked with concern. "I'm fine. I've already shaken off Zack. However, his strength is truly terrifying. Even if I am not restricted here, I should not be his opponent. I was only able to escape because of a red light that suddenly appeared here," Zhou Qingxian said. She then briefly recounted the battle between her and Zack, as well as how she escaped in the end to Zhou Jie and Tianqi Emperor. After listening to Zhou Qingxuan's description, Zhou Jie and Tianqi Emperor were both surprised by the red light she mentioned. As the two were thinking about it, Zhou Qingxuan's expression suddenly changed and she exclaimed, "I remember now. I felt that the red light was very familiar, but I'm sure I've never seen it before. I thought it was just my imagination, but when I saw Tianqi, I suddenly realized that the ripples that the red light emitted were very similar to Tianqi's paramount realm consciousness. In fact, it was exactly the same, except that the ripples were much stronger. It's very similar to my limitless divine sense? Hearing this, Emperor Tianqi was stunned. He recalled the characteristics of his paramount divine sense and suddenly frowned. He asked in confusion, "But if my paramount divine sense is condensed into something visible to the naked eye, it shouldn't be red. This is because I comprehend the laws of ice. When my paramount divine sense fuses, it should be blue. A red paramount divine sense might be fused with the laws of fire. Moreover, if that really is the paramount divine sense, then it is truly terrifying. Even if I release my paramount divine sense at full strength, I'm afraid it's only as thick as a thumb. That paramount divine sense that's even thicker than an arm. If it's unleashed by someone, then that person's strength is simply unimaginable. I'm afraid it would be a trivial matter for him to kill a perfected imperial emperor with a single thought." Emperor Tianqi added. His face was filled with emotion and yearning. Emperor Tianqi's words caused Zhou Jie and Zhou Qingxian to fall silent. But a moment later, Zhou Jie said, "I heard from Huang Yi that those who entered this place should be the geniuses of the younger generation. They shouldn't have the paramount divine sense you speak of." Zhou Jie said this because he knew more about the paramount divine sense than Emperor Tianqi. At worst, he wouldn't have such a profound understanding. After all, he didn't have it yet. However, Zhou Jie cultivated the secret heart force technique, so his understanding of the paramount divine sense could be said to be very comprehensive. The end of the first chapter of the secret heart force technique was the initial comprehension and control of heart force. From this, one could strengthen all moves and increase one's soul force, including one's soul force, to an astonishing degree. The second chapter of the secret heart force technique was related to the cultivation and use of heart force technique. Among them was the cultivation of the paramount divine sense. To put it bluntly, the Limiter divine sense was the strengthening of one's soul force after comprehending heart force, causing the quality of one's soul force to change and increase. It was called divine sense. As for the Limiter divine sense, it was used to comprehend a type of law through heart force, causing one's soul force to develop towards the limit. It referred to the use of law. When divine sense and G-realm were used together, it would become G-realm divine sense. It contained the effects of soul attacks and sensing, as well as the effects of fusing the laws. To put it bluntly, it was a technique that purely used one's soul force to drive the laws, using the most primitive method to display its might. When Tianqi Emperor received the ancient divine emperor's inheritance, he had coincidentally comprehended heart force due to his strong belief in Zhou Qingxian. After that, he attained the icy extreme realm. After a few hundred years of cultivation, he was naturally able to use the paramount divine sense. However, his understanding of the paramount divine sense was not as good as Zhou Jie's. It was worth mentioning that Tianqi Emperor's paramount divine sense made Zhou Jie envious. Although Zhou Jie's cultivation was almost the same as Tianqi Emperor's, if Tianqi Emperor did not comprehend heart force and paramount divine sense, Zhou Jie could easily kill him. After all, Zhou Jie was able to defeat most late-stage imperial emperors. From this, one could see how powerful the paramount divine sense was. Forget it. Let's not worry about that for now. Finding the ancient divine emperor is more important, Zhou Jie said. Zhou Qingxian and Tianqi Emperor nodded. Their only purpose in coming here was to find the ancient divine emperor. Now that they were out of danger, there was no point in worrying about anything else. Therefore, under Zhou Jie's lead, the three of them once again set off for the depths of the source. Half a day later, Zhou Jie and the other two had already entered the source. The surrounding environment had not changed much. However, the chaotic power of the laws of heaven and earth had become even more intense. Previously they could not use the laws of heaven and earth, but now they could not use the laws of heaven and earth. At some point, Zhou Qingxian and the other two saw a flash of red light in the distance. The three of them were shocked. Zhou Qingxian even blurted out, "The paramount divine sense. It's almost the same as the one I encountered before." Zhou Jie, Tianqi Emperor, and Tianqi Emperor stared at the red light in the distance. They found that it was as if it was confined to that area. It kept flying back and forth at lightning speed. Because it was too far away, they could not feel its power. However, judging from its size, if it was really the paramount divine sense, it would be powerful enough to kill all of them. After a short pause, Zhou Jie and the other two took a detour and continued flying forward. They did not dare to provoke the paramount divine sense. Naturally, they would not covet it either. If the paramount divine sense was ownerless, they could subdue it and use it for their own purposes. Moreover, the greater value of the paramount divine sense was that it could be used to comprehend the power of heart and the paramount divine sense. However, this time, Zhou Jie and the other two had not flown more than 10,000 miles when suddenly, Zhou Jie felt a slight heat between his eyebrows. Just as he was surprised that the divine mystery mirror seemed to have foreseen something, the void in front of them fluctuated slightly. A youth in blue armor appeared there. The sudden appearance of the blue-armored youth immediately shocked Zhou Jie and the other two. The three of them immediately stopped less than 100 meters away from him and looked at the blue-armored youth in astonishment. This blue-armored youth had a resolute face. He was not tall and sturdy, but he was not thin either. His eyes were extremely calm, and could even be called indifferent. This indifference clearly came from a kind of absolute confidence. When he looked at Zhou Jie and the other two, it was as if he was looking at three ordinary people who could not even truss a chicken. "Be careful, I can't see through this person's cultivation." Zhou Qingxian was the first to send a message. "It's him. The first time I used my Supreme Realm Divine Sense, I sensed 5 people. Among the 5, I couldn't see through the cultivation of one of them. After that, I couldn't detect his existence. Now it seems that it's him." Immediately after, Emperor Tianqi also sent a message anxiously, vaguely revealing his fear, a fear that he had not felt even when facing Zack. In fact, not only Emperor Tianqi, but also Zhou Qingxian and Zhou Jie were a little frightened at this time. There were 2 reasons for this. First, the blue-armored youth had appeared in front of them without them noticing, as if he had been waiting for them. There were only 2 explanations. Either the blue-armored youth had followed them all the way without them noticing, or he knew the destination of Zhou Jie and the other 2. In this regard, Zhou Jie was more inclined to believe the first one. Second, they could not see through the blue-armored youth's cultivation. They could only vaguely feel that he was in the Imperial Emperor realm. Moreover, the blue-armored youth was able to hide in front of Emperor Tianqi's Supreme Realm Divine Sense. His means were really amazing. In addition, he was so calm in front of Zhou Jie and the other 2. Zhou Jie did not doubt that he was stronger than Zack. Chapter 383. However, compared to Zhou Jie, there was another thing that shocked Zhou Jie. The divine secret mirror, which had not given any warning for a long time, had actually moved a second before the blue-armored youth appeared. It should be noted that the divine secret mirror was a treasure that could even be said to be at the level of the Emperor of Universe. Zhou Jie had never been able to see through it, nor was he able to control it. Therefore, although it was the most precious treasure that Zhou Jie had obtained early on, Zhou Jie had always felt that it was of little value because it seemed to only have the function of warning. Moreover, it was sometimes effective and sometimes ineffective. Zhou Jie did not know what was going on. This made Zhou Jie feel that it was completely useless to use, but it was a pity to abandon it. Ever since the divine secret mirror had given a strong warning when they entered the Shura dreamland, it had not given a decent warning. For example, when they encountered Zack not long ago, the divine secret mirror did not even fart. However, it was precisely because of this that the divine secret mirror's movement at this time made Zhou Jie even more frightened. What kind of threat could actually make the divine secret mirror give a warning again? Who are you? Why are you stopping us? After a short period of shock, Zhou Qingxian suppressed the various thoughts in her heart and asked the blue-armored youth. When the blue-armored youth heard this, he did not look at Zhou Qingxian, but kept staring at Zhou Jie. At this time, he opened his mouth and replied, "I'm here to take something. There's something I want, and it's on you." As the blue-armored youth spoke, he kept looking at Zhou Jie. When Zhou Jie met his eyes, he naturally knew that the you referred to him. At that moment, he could not help but be stunned. Then, he frowned and asked, "What is it?" However, the blue-armored youth said, "I can't say the name of this thing, because I only have its core remnant. If it has a name, it should be engraved on the main body, and the main body is now in the space between your eyebrows." When the blue-armored youth said this, Zhou Jie could not help but change his expression slightly. He was quite shocked. There were only two treasures in the space between Zhou Jie's eyebrows. One was the clear heart bell, that could resist soul attacks and illusions, and the other was the divine secret mirror. Although the clear heart bell was an emperor-level treasure, its value was only average among emperor-level treasures. Zhou Jie believed that with the blue-armored youth's strength, he would not be interested in it. Moreover, the clear heart bell was obviously a treasure, so what the blue-armored youth wanted was obviously the divine secret mirror. Zhou Tianwu had once said that the value of the destiny mirror was comparable to an emperor artifact, and it was only because of its effectiveness that it was rated as a top-grade imperial emperor-level treasure. But now, from what Zhou Jie heard from the blue-armored youth, it seemed that the destiny mirror he had obtained was only the main part, and the core was with the blue-armored youth. But in this way, Zhou Jie felt that he could understand why he could not control the mirror of divine secret mirror until now. Moreover, the mirror of divine secret mirror was sometimes ineffective. It was because it was not complete. Looking into the blue-armored youth's eyes, Zhou Jie frowned, but he still touched the space between his eyebrows and took out the mirror of divine secret mirror. This time, he succeeded. Zhou Jie was actually very surprised. Before, when he wanted to take out the mirror of divine secret mirror, he was inexplicably blocked and could not take it out. But this time, it was like moving clouds and flowing water. With a thought, he took it out. Speaking of which, this was the first time Zhou Jie took out the mirror of divine secret mirror. From the outside, the mirror of divine secret mirror looked like a milky white ball about the size of a head. Some parts of it had irregular protrusions. After it appeared in front of Zhou Jie, it emitted a faint white light and a strange fluctuation toward the blue-armored youth. Zhou Qingxian immediately raised her guard. She was worried that the blue-armored youth would try to snatch it. However, to everyone's surprise, the blue-armored young man looked at the divine secret mirror calmly and said, "I won't take your treasure for free. This treasure is very valuable. There are very few treasures on me that are comparable to it, and some of them are far more valuable. Therefore, I can only let you suffer a little loss." Zhou Jie and the others were a little surprised by the blue-armored youth's words. This was because from the blue-armored youth's calm attitude, it was clear that he had absolute strength, but he was still willing to exchange with them. This was really rare among cultivators. But just as the blue-armored youth finished speaking, Zhou Jie's eyes flashed and he said, "What if I don't exchange?" With just one sentence, it was as if the entire scene had been frozen. But in the next second, the blue-armored youth smiled and calmly said, "You will agree to the exchange." As he spoke, the young man flipped his right hand, and a pitch-black object that seemed like a tree branch appeared. The young man continued, This is the lightning origin of my blade Starcy. It's a branch from the lightning divine tree. I can sense a trace of the aura of lightning on you, so I presume it should be extremely valuable to you. Zhou Jie's perception swept over the item in the blue-armored youth's hand and his expression changed slightly. This was because when his perception swept over the item, a trace of destructive thunder and lightning law was transmitted from the branch. It was about to enter his soul realm through his perception. If it weren't for Zhou Jie's quick reaction, he would have had to resist it for a moment. However, Zhou Jie still had no intention of handing over the Mirror of Divine Secret. He frowned and shook his head. I won't exchange. Zhou Jie originally thought that the blue-armored youth would increase the bargaining chip when he said this, but who would have thought that the blue-armored youth would calmly put away the branch of the Thunder God would? Then, a smile appeared on his face as he said, Then I can only come and get it myself. As soon as the blue-armored youth spoke, Zhou Jie and the others' expressions changed. In the next instant, the blue-armored youth vanished on the spot. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Zhou Jie, and he raised his hand and pointed a finger at Zhou Jie. At that moment, Zhou Jie simply felt a chill run down his spine and his hair stand on end. As soon as the blue-armored youth vanished, Zhou Jie sensed a fluctuation in front of him, and the blue-armored youth appeared less than 2 meters away from him. But this was clearly not teleportation but the laws of space. The laws of space could be used in the origin source. This was the reason why Zhou Jie's scalp almost went numb. He didn't know what level of strength was required to accomplish this, but in any case, Zhou Qingxian couldn't do it. So, Zhou Jie determined that the blue-armored youth's cultivation was at the peak of the Imperial Emperor realm. But could a peak Imperial Emperor realm cultivator use the laws of space in the origin source? Zhou Jie didn't know this, but it was precisely because of this that he was even more afraid. Zhou Jie was the first to react in the face of the sudden finger attack. His super warrior instincts caused him to retreat explosively without thinking. However, he'd just taken a step back when he felt an invisible force press down on him, and it caused him to be unable to dodge. At the critical moment, Zhou Jie roared furiously. At the same time that the shield transformation covered his entire body, energy erupted from between his brows, and he resisted the blue-armored youth's finger attack in the most direct way. Boom! Amidst a deafening muffled sound, Zhou Jie was sent flying backward. However, due to the enormous pressure around him, he stopped after flying for a few dozen meters. He felt as if his entire body was imprisoned. However, to Zhou Jie's surprise, the power of the blue-armored youth's finger attack wasn't as great as he had imagined. At most, it was equivalent to a very ordinary attack from a peak Imperial Emperor. Although Zhou Jie still couldn't resist it, compared to a peak Imperial Emperor realm cultivator, this attack was too light. If he didn't have the shield transformation, although the blue-armored youth's finger attack couldn't kill Zhou Jie, it would definitely severely injure Zhou Jie to the point of death. However, with the shield transformation's defense, this finger attack only shattered many parts of Zhou Jie's head. Although it was close to a serious injury, it was still more than 10 times better than without the shield transformation's defense. The blue-armored youth was clearly a little surprised that his finger attack couldn't kill Zhou Jie. He frowned, but just as he was about to attack again, Zhou Qingxian, who was nearby, had already pounced at him angrily. The purple abyss erupted with a 1,000-foot-long sword light that shook the void. The blue-armored youth frowned and decisively took a step back. He raised his hand and blocked the purple abyss, retreating 100 meters. When Zhou Qingxian saw this scene, her pupils couldn't help but constrict. With her eyesight, how could she not see how the blue-armored youth had blocked her sword attack? The blue-armored youth had almost completely relied on the power of the spatial law to resolve the attack, and the energy consumed was almost negligible. "Who the hell are you?" Due to the many shocks the blue-armored youth had given her, Zhou Qingxian couldn't help but shout and frown. Chapter 384. The blue-armored young man stood still in midair when facing Zhou Qingxuan's question, and he met her gaze as he said, "I'm Rodrith from Blade Star Ocean. But all of you are clearly not from the Monster Alliance, yet you don't seem to be from the floating region either?" Rodrith naturally had his own reasons for asking this question. However, Zhou Qingxuan's group of three didn't mind that he knew they didn't belong to any of the three powers that had entered this place. On the other hand, Zhou Qingxian had told Zhou Jie and Zhou Qingxian that Blade Star Ocean was an extraordinary power. At this moment, Zhou Qingxian couldn't help but frown when she found out that Rodrith was from there, and she had some misgivings about it. Rodrith waited for a while, and even though he wasn't annoyed when he saw that Zhou Qingxian had no intention of revealing her identity, he shook his head slightly, and then his expression turned solemn as he said, "I'll give all of you one more chance. Hand over what I want. Otherwise, I've killed more than just 1 or 2 peak Imperial monarchs." Rodritha's obviously threatening words infuriated Zhou Qingxian, and at the same time, she became deeply vigilant. However, she wouldn't ask Zhou Jie to hand over the Heaven Secrets Mirror because as far as she was concerned, Zhou Jie was the holy son of the Zhou clan, and he possessed a lofty status. If she were to ask Zhou Jie to hand over the Heaven Secrets Mirror, then she would be going against her superior, and it was an unforgivable crime. However, right when all these thoughts flashed through Zhou Qingxuan's mind, a strand of aura suddenly erupted from Rodrith, and the expressions of Zhou Qingxian and the others changed at the instant they sensed this aura. It wasn't because Rodritha's aura was too terrifying. Conversely, Zhou Qingxian and the others were able to clearly determine Rodritha's cultivation at this moment. A late-stage Imperial monarch. Yes, in the opinion of Zhou Jie and the others, the cultivation Rodrith revealed was merely that of a late-stage Imperial monarch, and it had completely overturned their earlier estimations of Rodritha's cultivation. That was why Zhou Jie and the others were so shocked. Moreover, since Rodrith had a way to conceal his cultivation, then there was clearly no need for him to intentionally reveal his cultivation to be that of a late-stage Imperial monarch after he revealed his cultivation. If they excluded the fact that Rodrith had truly caused them to feel speechless, then the strength Rodrith revealed was truly too shocking. If Zhou Qingxian and the others hadn't heard it, they truly wouldn't believe it. Most importantly, they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, yet they didn't doubt Rodritha's words. No wonder that finger wasn't able to kill me, and its might was much weaker than I expected. So it turns out that he didn't hold back too much, and it's because the might of that finger was sufficiently formidable when compared to his cultivation. As far as he was concerned, it was sufficient to kill me. So, that's why that finger only possessed that much might. At the same time, this thought flashed through Zhou Jie's mind, and he was extremely shocked in his heart. After all, since Zhou Jie obtained the inheritance of the hallowed grounds, he'd always been invincible amongst cultivators at the same cultivation realm as him, and he'd always been able to surmount realms of cultivation to do battle. For example, he was capable of killing an ordinary late-stage Imperial monarch. However, as far as Zhou Jie was concerned, he seemed to be inferior to Rodrith. He's only a late-stage Imperial monarch, yet he possesses such a deep comprehension and grasp of the laws to the point he's able to utilize the laws here. Isn't this a little too terrifying? Of course, perhaps he possesses some sort of secret treasure to assist him. But no matter what, he was able to kill more than 1 peak Imperial monarch, and it's sufficient to explain many things. Zhou Jie was truly astounded, and he immediately couldn't help but make various guesses about Rodrith in his heart. While Zhou Jie was astounded, Zhou Qingxian couldn't help but ask with surprise, "A late-stage Imperial monarch? You're actually only a late-stage Imperial monarch?" Rodrith wasn't surprised by Zhou Qingxuan's shock, and he immediately met her gaze calmly before he answered, "Yes, I'm only a late-stage Imperial Monarch." "Then how can you utilize the laws here?" Zhou Qingxian asked another question, even though she felt that he probably wouldn't answer such a question. However, to Zhou Qingxuan's surprise, Rodrith said, "The laws here are just a little primitive, so you're unable to comprehend them. It can only be said that your comprehension of the laws is too low. If you're able to break through to the perfection stage of the Imperial Monarch realm, then perhaps you'll be able to utilize the laws." Zhou Qingxian couldn't help but fall silent when she heard Rodritha's answer. On the other hand, Zhou Jie fell silent as well, and he swiftly considered the current situation in his heart. He was merely a late-stage Imperial Monarch, yet his comprehension of the laws was clearly extremely deep. This clearly showed that he was an extraordinary genius. Coupled with what he'd said, it showed that his strength was absolutely not just an ordinary peak Imperial Monarch. On the other hand, even though Zhou Qingxian could be said to be an invincible existence amongst peak Imperial Monarchs, her strength had fallen drastically due to the restrictions of the laws here. So, Zhou Jie felt that it was very difficult for her to defeat Rodrith. Right when Zhou Jie was still hesitating, Rodrith suddenly said, "The time I gave you has passed." As soon as he finished speaking, Rodrith disappeared once again. However, this time, he didn't use the law of space to teleport. Instead, he transformed into a dazzling lightning bolt and charged at Emperor Tianqi at a speed that was close to teleportation. Although Emperor Tianqi was on guard, his strength was the weakest, so it was still difficult for him to react. In fact, even if he reacted, he wouldn't be able to block Rodritha's attack. Just as Rodritha's lightning bolt was about to land on Emperor Tianqi, Zhou Qingxian, who had been on guard all this while, unleashed her sword and slashed in front of Emperor Tianqi, barely stopping Rodrith. Bang! This was the first time Rodrith had taken the initiative to be repelled. He transformed into a lightning bolt and appeared dozens of meters away. At this moment, a silver-white spear appeared in his hand. An extremely shocking aura emanated from the spearhead, causing the void to tremble involuntarily. "This is?" Zhou Qingxuan's pupils constricted when she saw the spear in Rodritha's hand, and she almost cried out involuntarily. However, this wasn't because she recognized the spear, but because she was simply shocked by the might of the spear that could shake the void here without even activating it. 3 spears. Rodrith suddenly opened his mouth and said. Then, his figure flashed, and he went straight for Zhou Qingxian at an even faster speed than before. Although Zhou Qingxian was shocked, her reaction was not slow at all. She activated the Starlight Body transformation, and the surface of her body instantly turned from red to orange, from orange to yellow, from yellow to green, and from green to blue. The world around her roared and trembled violently. Emperor Tianqi took the opportunity to retreat to Zhou Jie's side and asked anxiously, "What should we do? If the Empress can't block it, with this person's speed, we can't escape either." When Zhou Jie heard this, he actually regretted that he didn't decisively hand over the divine secret mirror. However, there was no chance now, so his expression turned cold and he said to Emperor Tianqi, "Use your paramount divine sense to cooperate with me." At the same time, the battle between Zhou Qingxian and Rodrest had entered an intense state. Terrifying fluctuations had been ceaselessly swept out from the first collision, causing even space to warp, while terrifying waves of energy shot towards the surroundings. Not only was Zhou Jie and Rodrest visibly moved by it, but they even had no choice but to dodge. Because merely a slightly stronger aftershock of the battle was sufficient to heavily injure an ordinary initial-rank Imperial Monarch. Zhou Qingxian was completely shocked when she blocked Rodritha's first spear because Rodritha's strength was simply beyond her imagination. The first spear thrust directly, but it attracted lightning from all directions. At the same time, it turned into hundreds of spear lights at the instant before the collision. If Zhou Qingxian hadn't been extremely vigilant and used her ultimate strength to forcibly break through most of the spear lights and avoid the rest, she would have been severely injured by the first spear. Even after dodging the first spear light, Zhou Qingxian was still injured by the power of lightning. Fortunately, the starlight body strengthened her defense, so the injury wasn't obvious. In Zhou Jie and Emperor Tianqi's eyes, the battle between Zhou Qingxian and Rodrith seemed to have happened many times in the first second, and there were continuous explosions. However, in fact, Rodrith only used one spear at that time. Rodrith's second spear was even more powerful. The power of the law of lightning turned into a prison with the second spear, trapping Zhou Qingxian in it, and there was no way for her to dodge. When the spear thrust out, it disappeared from Zhou Qingxuan's senses. When it reappeared, it had already pierced through Zhou Qingxuan's left shoulder. The starlight body and the Emperor Tianqi inner armor's defense were like nothing under Rodrith's spear. Zhou Qingxian was shocked at that time, and she directly activated the Feather of the Radiant Emperor and retreated with a sword attack. Rodrith's expression didn't change because of the appearance of the Feather of the Radiant Emperor. His eyes were filled with lightning, cold and murderous. The third spear. Chapter 385. With the help of the Feather of the Light Emperor, Zhou Qingxian broke through the lightning prison with one strike. As she retreated, she activated the forbidden technique, the Amethyst Battle Body. Due to the transformation of the star body, Zhou Qingxuan's body would not be able to withstand the Amethyst Battle Body and would be in danger of exploding. However, with the protection of the Feather of the Light Emperor, Zhou Qingxuan's body would not explode. However, due to the heavy burden on her body, there would still be serious sequelae. Boom! Zhou Qingxian used the forbidden technique with the help of the star body. The power that erupted from the forbidden technique even surpassed the peak of the power of the law. She stabbed out with her sword, and a small crack appeared in the void. Her speed was as fast as lightning. Rodrith's third spear had just started, and there was no burst of power. When Zhou Qingxian stabbed out with her sword, she felt a chill in her abdomen. A terrifying destructive force madly rushed into her body and was about to destroy her body. Rodrith's third spear remained in its starting position. Then, Rodrith's eyes slightly changed, and the spear seemed to teleport and touch Zhou Qingxuan's sword. Boom! This collision was earth-shattering. A large number of spatial cracks appeared in the space where Rodrith and Zhou Qingxian were. It was as if a huge force had torn it apart, but the space resisted tenaciously and quickly healed. Now, a second before the collision, Zhou Jie had already sent a message to the Heavenly Knight Emperor, who was ready and released the Shura illusion at the same time. At the same time, the Shura illusion flew towards Rodrith like a stream of light. At the same time, a lightning-like blue light directly attacked Rodrith at an even faster speed. Before the aftermath of the collision began to spread, the Heavenly Knight Emperor's blue supreme divine sense first entered Rodrith's mind. Then, the Shura illusion locked on him, and self-destructed under Zhou Jie's thought. The Shura fantasy could be said to be the entrance to a spatial world. Its destruction was the destruction of the world within, and the destructive power of the world would naturally leak out from the entrance. As such, Rhodes was the first to bear the brunt of the destructive power of the world, as well as the aftermath of the collision. Of course, there was also the attack of Emperor Tianqi's ultimate divine sense. The resulting shockwaves forced both Zhou Jie and Emperor Tianqi to retreat. Thanks to the protection of the Radiant Emperor's feather, the shockwaves did not affect Zhou Qingxian at all and allowed her to fly back to where Zhou Jie and Emperor Tianqi were. However, Alders's third spear strike was extremely strange. He had clearly only raised his hand, but it had already pierced through Zhou Qingxuan's abdomen and transmitted a destructive force. If not for Zhou Qingxuan's full-powered stab causing Alders to abandon his third spear strike, Zhou Qingxian believed that even if she didn't die by now, she wouldn't be far from it. Alders's third spear strike had broken through Zhou Qingxuan's two-layered defense and the protection of the radiant Emperor's feather. Its power was simply unimaginable. However, Zhou Qingxian did not know that Alders's third spear strike had released more than 80% of its power on her body. The remaining 20% was used to block her sword. "Tianqi, Your Highness, let's go." Taking advantage of the chaos caused by the shockwaves, Zhou Qingxian flew back to Zhou Jie and Emperor Tianqi. She wrapped her hand around the two of them and flew to the side. At the same time, Alders, who was attacked by multiple forces, had no choice but to retreat a few thousand meters. The blue armor on his body released circles of blue ripples, helping him resist the destructive power of the world. His eyes burst out with a shocking cold light, and a yellow light rapidly surged between his brows. Emperor Tianqi's ultimate divine sense was actually completely devoured by this yellow light. Open! After retreating a few thousand meters, Alders suddenly forced himself to stop. He stabbed out with his spear, and a shocking spear light surged out, piercing through the destructive power of the world. Alders then raised his hand and pressed on the yellow light between his brows. The yellow light quickly converged into a small bead and returned to the space between his brows. "I must obtain the main body of this item." As Alders spoke, he coldly snorted and disappeared on the spot. On the other side, after Zhou Qingxian fled with Zhou Jie and Emperor Tianqi for a while, due to the destructive power in her body, the aftereffects of using the brilliant star body and amethyst battle body erupted prematurely. She could not suppress her injuries, and while flying, she suddenly let out a muffled groan. Countless clouds of blood burst out of her body, and then her energy was crazily drained. "Sister Qingxian! Empress!" Two cries of surprise came from Zhou Jie and Zhou Jie respectively. Then, Zhou Jie broke free from Zhou Qingxuan's energy that wrapped around him, pulled Zhou Qingxuan's body, and landed on the ground. After landing, Zhou Jie quickly formed a few formation seals with his energy and tapped on Zhou Qingxuan's body to help her suppress her injuries and the destructive power in her body. "Your Highness!" Zhou Qingxian caught her breath and immediately struggled to get up. She wanted to speak. "Sit down. Tianqi, heal Sister Qingxian." Zhou Jie interrupted Zhou Qingxuan's words and pressed her back to her seat. At the same time, he said to Emperor Tianqi. Then, Zhou Jie turned around and continued, "If Rodrith comes after us, just leave it to me." Although Zhou Jie's tone was indisputable, in fact, Zhou Jie had no way to fight against Rodrith. Rodritha's strength was completely at the level of a Great Circle Emperor. If Zhou Jie's cultivation was at the peak of the Great Circle Emperor realm, he might be able to put up a fight. However, as he was only at the middle stage of the Great Circle Emperor realm, Zhou Jie had almost no divine ability or secret technique that could make up for this gap. However, Zhou Jie really did have one. If he could use the profundity of the series of divine arts again, he would definitely be able to kill Rodrith instantly. However, the last time he used the profundity of the series of divine arts was purely a miracle. With Zhou Jie's current cultivation and comprehension, it was almost impossible for him to use it a second time. Zhou Jie looked up at the sky. At the same time, the space on his left fluctuated slightly, and Rodrith silently appeared there. His eyes swept over Zhou Jie's group like thunder. Zhou Jie wasn't surprised that they were caught up so quickly. In fact, since the other party could use the law of space here, unless they escaped far away from the other party's detection range, it was almost impossible for the other party to catch up to them. Zhou Jie and Rodrith looked at each other. Just as they were about to say something, Rodritha's pupils suddenly shrank. Then, Zhou Jie saw a red light instantly descend on Rodrith from afar. Bang! Rodrith only had time to raise his spear to block before he was hit by the red light and sent flying. At the same time, The blue battle armor on his body shone brightly and emitted waves of strange fluctuations. Paramount divine sense. Rodritha's expression changed drastically, and he lost his composure for the first time. Zhou Jie was also dumbfounded by the scene in front of him. Previously, Zhou Qingxian had escaped because of this paramount divine sense. Could it be that they could do the same this time? However, Zhou Jie could not figure out why this paramount divine sense had accurately attacked Rodrith and Zack. The paramount divine sense flashed and disappeared into the distance. Rodrith could not help but secretly sigh in relief. His expression returned to calmness, and he looked at Zhou Jie again, intending to make a move. But at this moment, the red light in the distance flashed again. Pung! This time Rodrith was prepared. He swept his spear to block the attack of the paramount divine sense, but he was still sent flying over 100 meters. This caused his face to turn pale. It was no wonder that Rodritha's expression was ugly. If this paramount divine sense had just left and never returned, then he might have thought that he was just unlucky to have been attacked. But now that the paramount divine sense had attacked him again, it was obviously not a coincidence. As expected, after the second attack, the paramount divine sense disappeared into the distance. Soon it appeared again, and its target was still Rodrith. This time, Rodrith learned his lesson. He flew 100 meters ahead of time, but the paramount divine sense chased after him and attacked him again without any suspense. Rodrith was sent flying for the third time. Even with the protection of the treasure armor, he was still seriously injured. Even though he forcefully suppressed it, blood still flowed out from the corner of his mouth. But just as Rodrith was about to deal with the paramount divine sense's fourth attack, his expression suddenly changed again. Zhou Jie also saw the source of Rodritha's change in expression, and his expression immediately changed as well. Blood beast! Rodrith cried out in alarm. For the first time, he felt fear in his heart. Chapter 386. What made Rodrith cry out in alarm was a patch of red coming from the sky. To be precise, it was a dense patch of red dots. However, these dots approached in the next second and covered half the sky. Zhou Jie saw with his perception that they were countless red tentacles as thick as a child's arm. It wasn't a big deal if these tentacles were just numerous and seemed terrifying. That naturally wouldn't have caused Rhodes's expression to change so drastically. The crux was that every single tentacle contained terrifying might, and it wasn't inferior to the full might of an imperial monarch at the initial realm. Of course, if it was only the full power of an initial stage imperial emperor, even Zhou Jie would not take it seriously. However, the problem was that there were tens of thousands of such power, which was equivalent to tens of thousands of initial stage imperial emperors launching a self-detonation attack. This was not an ordinary level of terror. The power of 10,000 initial stage imperial emperors' self-detonation was enough to seriously injure or even kill a peak imperial emperor. The second before the countless red tentacles descended, Rodrith had already taken a step forward and arrived above Zhou Jie's head. He grabbed with his hand as if he wanted to capture Zhou Jie directly. However, Rodrith had really underestimated Zhou Jie. Even though his grab was very strong and contained the law of space, locking down Zhou Jie's entire body, how could Zhou Jie's reaction speed as an ultimate warrior not allow him to resist? In fact, before Rodrith was suddenly attacked by the paramount realm divine sense, he was already prepared to erupt and resist Rodrith. At this moment, facing Rodritha's sudden attack, he did not hesitate to erupt. First, the shield transformation left Zhou Jie's body and formed a black cloth that wrapped half of Rodritha's body. At the same time, Zhou Jie took out the primordial 8 slashes and directly activated the primordial universe flames contained in it. Immediately, the surrounding space distorted and fluctuated, and Rodritha's spatial law imprisonment power disintegrated. Then, Zhou Jie activated the chasing stars and moon under his feet and turned into a bolt of lightning that disappeared from the spot. Everything was completed within a tenth of a second. Because Rhodes's grab was blocked by the shield transformation, he changed it into a punch. As a result, the shield transformation was directly shaken into a ball of black mud and was sent flying far away. Rodrith obviously looked down on shield transformation. After sending shield transformation flying with a punch, he was shocked to find that Zhou Jie had disappeared in front of him. This made his eyes flash coldly, and then he turned into a bolt of lightning and chased after Zhou Jie. Zhou Jie raised his speed to the limit and shot straight up into the sky. In the blink of an eye, he was 10,000 meters above the ground. Lodrith followed closely behind, his face extremely gloomy. He knew that he could not fly too high in the sky, or else he would be attacked by the Lemur's divine sense. However, with his strength, the Lemur's divine sense would not be able to kill him in a short period of time. He believed that Zhou Jie would die instantly under the Lemur's divine sense attack. However, Lodrith did not expect that the two of them would not be attacked by the Lemur's divine sense when they rose into the sky. However, in the next second, countless red tentacles chased after them like maggots attached to bones. At this moment, looking from afar, one would see a scene like this. Two small black dots flew into the sky one after another, and behind them were dense red threads that almost weaved into a net to chase after them. The higher they flew, the greater the resistance in the sky. Zhou Jie soon revealed the outline of his body from an illusory bolt of lightning. At this moment, he was under tremendous pressure. If not for the fact that his body was not weaker than a peak Imperial Emperor, his body would have collapsed at this moment. Zhou Jie's speed dropped by more than 90% in an instant because of this. Lodrith overtook Zhou Jie in an instant, appeared above Zhou Jie's head, and grabbed at him again. However, Zhou Jie was also prepared for this. At that time, he raised his right hand without hesitation. At the same time, in the palm of his right hand, a dazzling ball of lightning suddenly appeared. In an instant, it exploded into an extremely terrifying power of lightning and turned into a vortex. It resisted Rodritha's second capture and even paralyzed his body for a moment. The reason why Zhou Jie could burst out such a powerful attack was that he did not use any secret method. He only detonated the strong thunder array that had been hidden in the space in his right hand. This treasure had been improved by Zhou Jie. After it was used, it could even trap a late-stage Imperial Emperor for a while. The power of self-destruction was needless to say. It was more than enough to use it to repel Lodrith once. After colliding with Lodrith, Zhou Jie borrowed the force to fall down. Countless red tentacles swept past him. Zhou Jie reacted quickly and took out the Chaos 8 strikes to deal with them. However, he was surprised to find that these tentacles treated him as nothing and swarmed toward Lodrith. Without thinking about the reason, Zhou Jie stepped on the chasing stars and moon, and his body turned into a bolt of lightning again. In the blink of an eye, he returned to the ground. At this moment, Zhou Qingxian had temporarily suppressed her injuries with the help of Tian Qi and Tian Qi. Zhou Jie called out to them, and both of them instantly responded and intended to flee with Zhou Jie. At the same time, Lodrith, who was in the sky, was attacked by countless red tentacles at the same time. This caused him to reveal a trace of astonishment, and he hurriedly dodged and resisted. Every single one of these red tentacles posed no threat to Lodrith. However, Lodrith was very well aware that once he was entangled or obstructed by a few tentacles, then he would be entangled by even more tentacles. After that, if he was unable to escape in one go, then more and more tentacles would entangle him. Moreover, their might could combine together to the point that even he was unable to resist them. So, Lodrith was clearly aware that he couldn't underestimate the obstruction of any single tentacle. He had to do his best to avoid it, and only on this basis could he counterattack and destroy the tentacles. Because even though every single one of these tentacles only possessed the might of an early-stage imperial monarch, their length was extremely terrifying, and it was very difficult to destroy them with ease. If he couldn't avoid them and still soared into the sky to destroy them, then if he didn't possess absolute strength, then he could only wait to be surrounded to death by even more tentacles. Damn it! Why is this happening? Why are they only attacking me? What made Lodrith feel even more depressed and ridiculous was that the paramount divine sense and blood tentacles were only attacking him, and they completely ignored Zhou Jie's group of 3. Such a situation was truly infuriating, but Lodrith just had to encounter it. How could he not be depressed? On the other side, Zhou Jie's group of 3 hadn't flown far when over 1,000 red tentacles suddenly broke out from the ground around them and instantly surrounded them. At this moment, Zhou Jie's group's expression changed drastically. Although there were 3 of them, Zhou Qingxian had just suppressed her injuries with great difficulty, so they couldn't act rashly. Instead, they had become a burden for Zhou Jie and Tianqi Emperor. Facing these thousands of tentacles, it was like being surrounded by thousands of early-stage imperial monarchs. Zhou Jie and Tianqi Emperor knew that they weren't confident of escaping. After Zhou Jie's group of 3 stopped flying, the red tentacles that surrounded them began to gather. Zhou Jie had no choice but to send a voice transmission to Tianqi Emperor to protect Zhou Qingxian. With a thought, shield transformation flew out and wrapped around Zhou Qingxian, forming a leather armor on her body. Then, he used Chaos 8 strikes to break out of the encirclement. Tianqi Emperor held Zhou Qingxian with one hand and followed behind Zhou Jie with the other holding a spear. He was responsible for blocking the tentacles that attacked from behind for Zhou Jie. However, in the next second, countless tentacles gathered together and swallowed Zhou Jie's group. In the sky, Rodritha's figure flashed wildly. From time to time, he would collide with some tentacles that tried to stop him. The blue armor on his body released waves of ripples, causing the tentacles that touched him to shatter. At this moment, Rodrith couldn't be bothered to pay attention to Zhou Jie's group. He only wanted to escape this place and escape the attack range of the blood fiends. However, there were simply too many tentacles surrounding Rodrith. As Rodrith fled in the sky, countless tentacles chased after him. This caused Rodrith to expend a lot of energy, and his face gradually turned pale and ugly. Fortunately, at some point, Rodrith took out a white talisman. The talisman instantly burned, forming countless white patterns on the surface of his body. Rodritha's speed soared as he swung his spear. White flames filled the sky and burned the countless tentacles chasing after him. Rodrith took the opportunity to escape at full speed and finally escaped the pursuit of the tentacles. At this moment, Zhou Jie's group of 3 was tightly bound by countless tentacles as they entered a blood-red canyon. Chapter 387. This crimson canyon itself wasn't actually red, but there was an extremely long and narrow blood river in it. This blood river was emitting a red light, and the entire canyon was illuminated by the light, which made it appear crimson. The red tentacles that wrapped Zhou Jie and the other 2 came from this blood river. At this moment, Zhou Jie and the other 2 were about to be brought into the blood river by these tentacles. If Zhou Jie could see the scenery outside at this moment, he would be shocked to discover that this blood river looked like flowing water from above, but at a closer look, its surface was full of squirming red tentacles squeezing together. As a matter of fact, this blood-red river was the blood beast that Rhodes spoke of. Its surface seemed to be completely formed from countless red tentacles, and their numbers were so enormous that they could be counted in the trillions. Moreover, every single tentacle possessed the might of an initial realm imperial monarch, so it was obvious how formidable the blood beast's main body was. After Zhou Jie and the other two were brought into the blood beast's body by the tentacles, they were brought all the way down. If someone could see the descent process inside the blood beast's body, they would definitely be even more shocked. This was because the surface area of the blood beast was already so huge that it could accommodate hundreds of billions of tentacles. Its depth was also extremely terrifying. In this way, the number of tentacles inside was definitely more than hundreds of trillions. Although Zhou Jie and the other two were unable to break free from the tentacles didn't hurt them. They were still conscious and could feel that they were constantly descending. In Zhou Jie's perception, he felt his vision turn dark about 10 minutes ago. However, that wasn't because of any problem with his body, but because he was brought into the blood beast's body by the tentacles, causing the surrounding light to completely disappear. Not long after, Zhou Jie was surprised to find that the tentacles that wrapped around him suddenly began to loosen. About 2 seconds later, they completely let go of his body. In the next second, the tentacles that wrapped around Zhou Jie quickly and completely disappeared from Zhou Jie's side. Zhou Jie's eyes were suddenly filled with light. After adapting to the sudden change in light in an instant, Zhou Jie found himself in midair and quickly stabilized his body. At the same time, the scenery in front of him came into view, causing Zhou Jie's expression to change. In front of Zhou Jie was a boundless green forest, made up of countless towering trees that were over 100 meters tall. Zhou Jie was at a height of several thousand meters above the green forest below. Even as far as the eye could see, he couldn't see the edge of the forest below. One could only imagine how vast the forest was. In addition, Zhou Jie also discovered that the laws here had regained the same stable order as the outside universe, and they were even clearer. If one cultivated the laws here, they would be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort. Your Highness! At that moment, Zhou Jie heard Zhou Qingxuan's voice behind him. He sensed something and turned around at the same time. He saw Zhou Qingxian and Emperor Tianqi flying towards him from not far away. In a flash, they were beside him. After Emperor Tianqi appeared beside Zhou Jie, he raised his head and asked subconsciously, "What is this place?" Zhou Jie followed Tianqi Emperor's gaze and looked up. He found that there was a dense mass of red tentacles just a few dozen meters above his head. This made his pupils shrink slightly, and he immediately had a guess in his heart. We seem to be below the main body of those tentacles. Just as Zhou Jie was guessing, Zhou Qingxian suddenly spoke. What she said matched Zhou Jie's guess. Hearing Zhou Qingxuan's words, Zhou Jie suddenly remembered that the red tentacles and the Supreme Realm Mind did not attack them, but they were rude to roads. This shocked him, and he seemed to have thought of something. Here? Zhou Jie suddenly exclaimed, causing Zhou Qingxian and Emperor Tianqi to turn to look at him. The guidance in my mind has disappeared. I think this is the place where the Ancient One asked me to come to, Zhou Jie said after losing his voice. He could not help but sound a little excited. At that moment, a beautiful figure silently appeared in front of Zhou Jie and the other two. Zhou Qingxian, who was about to speak, was shocked. The three of them looked at the person who appeared. It was a graceful woman in a tight purple battle suit. Her face was delicate, and her temperament was very cold. Her beautiful eyes were filled with the aura of looking down on everything. Her long purple hair fluttered slightly in the air. She looked extremely domineering and elegant. After the woman in purple appeared, her eyes swept across Zhou Jie and the other two, and finally fell on Zhou Jie. Her eyes flashed for some reason, and her beautiful brows furrowed. As for Zhou Jie and the other two, they seemed to be stunned by the appearance of the purple-clothed woman. When Zhou Jie reacted and was about to speak, the purple-clothed woman spoke first. "The three of you, come with me." As soon as the woman in purple finished speaking, Zhou Jie was about to respond. Suddenly, he felt an almost irresistible power of law sweep over his body. He subconsciously wanted to resist, but fortunately, he suppressed this thought. In the next second, Zhou Jie and the other two disappeared with the woman in purple. When they reappeared, they were already on a barren cliff. When Zhou Jie recovered his senses, the scene in front of him came into view. He found that he was standing on the top of a yellow mud cliff. On both sides of the cliff were steep cliffs that were thousands of feet high. Less than 5 meters ahead was the end of the cliff. At this moment, the woman in purple was standing around 2 meters in front of Zhou Jie and the others. A white-robed figure was sitting cross-legged on the cliff in front of her. His crimson-red hair hung down to his waist, and his back looked rather broad. He seemed like a man. Zhou Jie was slightly moved. Although the crimson-red-haired white-robed figure was sitting cross-legged there, Zhou Jie couldn't sense his existence at all. If he didn't see it with his eyes, Zhou Jie wouldn't dare believe that a person was sitting there. Right at this moment, the woman in purple who was unfathomable to Zhou Jie and the others nodded to the white-robed figure and said respectfully, "Saint Emperor, I've brought them over." As soon as the woman in purple spoke, the white-robed figure stood up and slowly turned around. Zhou Jie hurriedly lowered his head slightly, but still couldn't help but look up. This glance allowed him to clearly see the face of the white-robed figure. It was really a very ordinary man's face, and it could even be described as a pale-faced scholar. It was not handsome at all, and there was no special temperament to speak of. In comparison, Zhou Jie felt that compared to the woman in purple, this face, including its owner, was really ordinary to the point that it couldn't be more ordinary. But when this face fell into Zhou Qingxuan's eyes, it caused her to be greatly shocked. When she opened her mouth, she completely forgot to breathe. She was too familiar with this face, so familiar that sometimes she could clearly see it in her dreams. For tens of thousands of years, she had imagined countless times that the owner of this face would appear before her eyes again. But she didn't expect this moment to come so suddenly. Saint Emperor! Zhou Qingxian couldn't help but cry out in a trembling voice. Zhou Jie had already guessed that the white-robed figure was Saint Emperor Yi Gu at first sight, and the words of the woman in purple confirmed it. Therefore, when Zhou Jie heard Zhou Qingxuan's words, he was not surprised. Instead, he hurriedly bowed and said, "Senior Saint Emperor! Senior Saint Emperor!" Emperor Tianqi was also shocked. Seeing Zhou Jie bow, he immediately followed suit. The red-haired man in white, who was Saint Emperor Yi Gu, smiled and looked at Zhou Qingxian, saying, "Qingxian, long time no see. I didn't expect that after tens of thousands of years, you've finally become an emperor. Not bad." Saint Emperor Yi Gu's words were as ordinary as a senior talking to a junior. But in Zhou Qingxuan's ears, it was like a thunderclap, causing her to tremble. She couldn't control the expression on her face. It was like crying and laughing at the same time. But soon after, Zhou Qingxian was slightly taken aback. She suddenly realized that a gentle force had fused into her limbs and bones, causing her injuries to heal at an astonishing speed. In less than 2 breaths, she was as good as new. "Thank you, Saint Emperor." Zhou Qingxian tried to suppress the excitement and complicated emotions in her heart and quickly said. Hearing this, Saint Emperor Yi Gu smiled faintly and turned to Zhou Jie. His expression suddenly became serious, and then he did something that shocked everyone present. Saint Emperor Yi Gu lowered his head slightly to Zhou Jie and said solemnly, "I am Saint Emperor Yi Gu, one of the 10 great consecrators of the Zhou Holy Ground. Greetings, Your Highness." Chapter 388. Zhou Jie was flattered by Sacred Emperor Yi Gu's respectful attitude. He quickly cupped his fists and said, "Senior Sacred Emperor, please call me Zhou Jie." When Zhou Jie said this, he actually wanted to say, "The Zhou Holy Land no longer exists. Senior, there is no need for you to address me as Holy Son." But when he thought of how Zhou Jie might be unhappy if he said this, Zhou Jie decided to be tactful. However, after hearing Zhou Jie's words, Sacred Emperor Yi said solemnly, "You can't do that. Even without the support of the Sacred Ground's resources, Your Highness has already reached the Imperial Emperor realm, and the time it took you is not longer than the previous Sacred Sons. You are a genius. The revival of the Zhou Sacred Ground is all thanks to Your Highness. For this reason, Your Highness should accept my bow." "Senior Sacred Emperor, you can't!" Zhou Jie shouted when he saw that Sacred Emperor Yi was about to bow to him. However, he still could not stop Sacred Emperor Yi. After bowing to Zhou Jie, Sacred Emperor Yi stood up and said, "Your Highness, please accept my bow." Sacred Emperor Yi then said, "Your Highness, I have already heard about all the things that happened in the Land of Inheritance. I am quite satisfied with Your Highness's strength. However, compared to the previous Sacred Sons, Your Highness still needs to work harder in the future. When the time comes, I will personally guide Your Highness." Zhou Jie immediately nodded when he heard this and said, "Senior Holy Emperor, this junior is more than happy to receive your guidance." "Your Highness, you are welcome," Sacred Emperor Yi immediately said. He then looked at Zhou Qingxian and Tianqi. Emperor Tianqi said to the two of them, "Both of you are doing very well. How about this, Ziyan, you take them to a place to cultivate and rest. This old man has something to discuss with His Highness alone. I will come to you later." "Thank you, Sacred Emperor," Zhou Qingxian and Tianqi said in unison. "Come with me." The woman in purple walked up and said to Zhou Qingxian and Tianqi. Thus, the three of them left, leaving only Sacred Emperor Yi and Zhou Jie on the cliff. "As for the destruction of the Zhou Sacred Ground, Your Highness should know about it, so I won't say much about it. However, I know that Your Highness must be wondering why I want to rebuild the Zhou Sacred Ground at the risk of being destroyed by the Li Clan Sacred Ground," Sacred Emperor Yi said slowly. Zhou Jie immediately nodded and said, "Senior Sacred Emperor, you are right. I am indeed confused. With the destruction of the Zhou Sacred Ground, with Your Highness's strength, you should be able to rule over the Zhou Sacred Ground and live a carefree life. There is no need for you to care about the revival of the Zhou Sacred Ground. In fact, before I came here with Sister Qingxian, I have already made some preparations. If Senior Sacred Ground does not want to revive the Zhou Sacred Ground, I will not hold any grudges against Senior Sacred Ground. However, although I am alone, when I was still weak, I received the selfless inheritance from a few seniors in the Six Paths world, and they promised to revive the Zhou Sacred Ground. Therefore, no matter what happens in the future, I will do my best." After hearing Zhou Jie's words, Sacred Emperor Yi laughed happily and said, "Ha ha ha ha, good. With Your Highness's words, I am very happy. Perhaps, in the future, the Zhou Sacred Ground will be revived by Your Highness." The smile on Saint Emperor Ancient's face was sincere, but his heart was filled with sorrow. Not for anything else, but because even he himself did not believe that Zhou Jie would be able to revive the Holy Land one day. However, this didn't mean that Holy Emperor Yi had no hope of reviving the Holy Land. On the contrary, he had a strong desire for it. Even though he knew the chances were slim, he would never go against his Taoist heart and give up the idea of reviving the Holy Land because of the oath he made to the second Saint Master of the Zhou Holy Land. Therefore, although Sacred Emperor Yi did not have much hope for Zhou Jie to revive the Zhou Sacred Ground in the future, he still wanted to do his best to help Zhou Jie restore the Zhou Sacred Ground's past. This was because this was his biggest obsession in this world. After all, an expert like Sacred Emperor Yi had lived for too long. The time he had spent in the peak of the Universe Emperor realm was enough for some people to reach the Universe Emperor realm from the mortal body realm, and even break through to the Transcendent realm. Because he had lived for too long and could not break through to the Transcendent realm, Sacred Emperor Yi desire to become a Transcendent was still strong. However, time had already sealed it in his heart. He had experienced the rest of the things countless times, to the point where he did not want to go through them again. Therefore, the mission of reviving the Zhou sacred ground was not only a challenge, but also a pleasure. It was even a motivation for him to live on. Back then, this old man received the grace of the second sacred lord and served as one of the 10 great consecrators of the sacred grounds for several eras. The sacred ground's former glory is still vivid in my mind. Even after several tens of thousands of years, this old man has never stopped thinking about restoring the Zhou sacred ground's former glory. I even want to destroy the Li sacred grounds. Sacred Emperor Yi Gu's face became more and more ferocious as he spoke. However, the divine ancestor died. Even though the divine ancestor of the Li sacred ground was severely injured, he was still invincible in this world. If we want to revive the Zhou sacred ground, we need a half-step saint, or even a full-step saint. I know it's very difficult or even impossible. But no matter what, Your Highness has given me a glimmer of hope. I will do my best to help Your Highness become a transcendent and a saint. After saying that, even Sacred Emperor Yi Gu felt a little embarrassed because he felt like he was bragging. After all, he was not even a transcendent yet, so how could he help Zhou Jie become a transcendent or even a saint? However, Zhou Jie did not care about that. He was grateful for Sacred Emperor Yi Gu's sincere words. So, he said, I will do my best to live up to your expectations. Sacred Emperor Yi Gu nodded again after hearing Zhou Jie's words. Then, he said, Your Highness, please take out the 6 Paths world. I need to go in. Zhou Jie was stunned for a second, but he quickly agreed. The 6 Paths world could only be opened by those with a certain level of Zhou bloodline. Now that it had recognized Zhou Jie as its master, without Zhou Jie's permission, even Sacred Emperor Yi Gu would not be able to open it. After Zhou Jie took out the 6 Paths world and opened the Whirlpool Tunnel, Sacred Emperor Yi Gu raised his hand and pointed his finger at the side. Then, an illusory clone of Sacred Emperor Yi Gu appeared and stepped into the 6 Paths world. After that, Sacred Emperor Yi Gu looked at Zhou Jie from head to toe, and Zhou Jie had a strange feeling that he was completely seen through. 2 seconds later, Sacred Emperor Yi Gu nodded and said to Zhou Jie, with just 2,000 years of cultivation, Your Highness's body is not bad at all. However, your soul is not strong enough. But this is inevitable. As for the secret arts Your Highness has learned, I have sent my avatar into the 6 Paths world to learn from the 6 Tower Masters. After that, I will come up with a cultivation plan for Your Highness. Do you have time to cultivate now? Upon hearing the question, Zhou Jie thought for a moment and answered, I have nothing important to do in the future. I can cultivate here for as long as I want. After hearing Zhou Jie's answer, Sacred Emperor Yi Gu nodded satisfactorily and said, Your Highness is still young after all. You can't just stay here and cultivate all the time. You should go out and explore more. I estimate that Your Highness will cultivate here for about 3,000 years before I send Your Highness out to explore. Your Highness has obtained a drop of my immortal blood, and I believe that Your Highness has already used it. With this item, Your Highness can revive even if Your Highness dies in the outside world. I will retrieve the drop of immortal blood from Your Highness and store it in a safe place. Hearing that, Zhou Jie was stunned for a moment and couldn't help but say, I did use that drop of immortal blood, but I put it in a separate space in the Emperor Blood Realm. As long as the Emperor Blood Realm doesn't collapse, my doppelganger should be safe. However, Sacred Emperor Yi Gu was still worried about that. He said, Let me store it. Your Highness, relax and don't resist. Although Zhou Jie was confused, he did as Sacred Emperor Yi Gu said. In the next second, Zhou Jie was in a trance. At the same time, he felt as if a pair of hands were gently stroking the memory in his spirit realm. Then, when Zhou Jie came to his senses, he saw Sacred Emperor Igu reaching his hand into the void in front of him. A void vortex appeared in front of Sacred Emperor Igu's hand. Sacred Emperor Igu's hand went into the void vortex and stayed still for a few seconds. Not long after, Sacred Emperor Igu's hand moved slightly and then withdrew from the void vortex. When Sacred Emperor Igu's hand left the void vortex, Zhou Jie immediately sensed a power of the same origin as his. This power came from the drop of immortal blood that he had used. Chapter 389. Zhou Jie was quite shocked by what Divine Emperor Igu did. With his current cultivation, he could not understand how Divine Emperor Igu did it. It took Zhou Jie and his two companions hundreds of years to get here from the Emperor Blood Realm. However, Divine Emperor Igu took the immortal blood from Zhou Jie's storage in the Emperor Blood Realm. That was incredible. However, Divine Emperor Igu acted as if he had just done something trivial. His face did not change at all. When he held Zhou Jie's immortal blood in front of him, a beam of golden light suddenly shot out from between his eyebrows and merged into the immortal blood. Immediately, the surface of the immortal blood was covered with a layer of golden energy. The energy looked calm, but when Zhou Jie sensed it, he found that the power it contained was beyond his estimation. It was terrifying. Then, Divine Emperor Igu threw Zhou Jie's immortal blood aside, and it disappeared. Then, Divine Emperor Igu said, "Your Highness, I've sent your doppelganger to a safer place. I'm confident that even Transcendence can't find it." Hearing that, Zhou Jie hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "Thank you, Senior. Don't mention it." Divine Emperor Igu replied. Then, he continued, "Let me take you to the place where you'll cultivate in the future. You'll be able to comprehend the Dharma more easily there." After saying that, Divine Emperor Igu did not wait for Zhou Jie's reply. With a thought, Zhou Jie's vision blurred, and he clearly felt the space around him changing rapidly. When his vision returned to normal, he saw a lava mountain full of lava. If it were not for the gray haze in the sky, Zhou Jie might have thought that he was in the depths of a volcano. While Zhou Jie was still in shock, Divine Emperor Igu said, "Your Highness, this is the periphery of the void origin. It's close to the edge of the continent. To be precise, this is a long pit. The surface of the pit is covered with a large amount of poisonous fire gas. It looks like the sky, but in fact, after passing through the poisonous fire gas, you'll reach the surface. Your Highness is now near the center of the long pit. The further you go, the more dangerous it will be. However, the origin energy of the universal law here, especially the origin energy of the fire element, is extremely rich. If your Highness can comprehend it, you'll be able to comprehend the Dharma by leaps and bounds." After saying that, Divine Emperor Igu turned to Zhou Jie, as if to ask Zhou Jie if he had any doubts. "Of course, the premise is that your Highness can see through the surface of the origin of the chaos law. As long as your Highness can do that, you won't have to worry about the difficulty of comprehending the Dharma when you try to break through to the Emperor Universe realm." Seeing this, Zhou Jie thought for a while and asked, "Senior Divine Emperor, I may have asked too early, but I still want to know what conditions are required to reach the Emperor Universe realm from the Emperor Universe realm? Or what aspects of cultivation do I have to pay attention to?" Hearing Zhou Jie's question, Divine Emperor Igu smiled and said, "Your Highness, that's a good question. In fact, even if your Highness didn't ask, I would have told your Highness in no time. If you want to reach the Emperor Universe realm, you have to cultivate the Dharma body, and soul to the advanced level. If you fail in one of the three, you will never be able to reach the Emperor Universe realm. This is one of the reasons why most imperial emperors can't reach the Emperor Universe realm in their lifetime. Because they don't understand this point, some people think that the Dharma body is the most basic way to reach the Emperor Universe realm. In the end, when their Dharma body reaches the limit of the Emperor Universe realm, their soul will reach the limit as well. However, because their divine body is not strong enough, they fail to break through and die. Hearing this, Zhou Jie guessed that Divine Emperor Yi Gu really did know such a person. Perhaps this person was a genius who had great achievements in the Dharma body and soul, and was even comparable to the Emperor Universe realm expert. However, because he neglected the cultivation of his divine body, he suffered a backlash from the origin of the universe when he tried to break through to the Emperor Universe realm. Zhou Jie had heard about the backlash from the origin of the universe from Zhou Tianwu a long time ago. However, at that time, Zhou Tianwu told Zhou Jie to pay attention to the potential backlash when breaking through to the Emperor Universe realm. However, the backlash was not very strong. Normally, one would not die if he failed to break through to the Emperor Universe realm. However, there was a high probability of death when breaking through to the Emperor Universe realm from the Imperial Emperor Universe realm. This was one of the reasons why the number of Emperor Universe realm experts was much lower than the number of Imperial Emperors. Because they were afraid of failing their breakthrough and dying, some Emperor monarchs who had a chance of breaking through to the Universe Emperor realm would choose to stay in the Emperor realm for a very long time. As a result, above the Emperor realm, there were two realms: the half-step Emperor realm and the pseudo-Universe Emperor realm. For the same reason, the Universe Emperor realm was also divided into the half-step Transcendent realm and the pseudo-Universe Emperor realm. The latter was stronger than the former, and the gap between the two realms was huge. The gap between the two realms was so huge that it was ridiculous. This was because some Emperor monarchs in the pseudo-Universe Emperor realm and the pseudo-Universe Emperor realm could even fight a Universe Emperor realm expert who had just entered the Universe Emperor realm. Before Zhou Jie could express his understanding, Sacred Emperor Yi Gu said, "But you don't have to worry about that, Your Highness. The six-path inheritance of the Zhou Holy Land is perfect. As long as Your Highness can cultivate the six-path inheritance to a certain level, it won't be difficult for Your Highness to break through to the Emperor Universe realm. Except for those who died prematurely, the remaining three holy sons have all broken through to the Emperor Universe realm. Two of them have even become transcendents and have been holy masters." Sacred Emperor Yi Gu paused for a moment, then added, "Although it has a lot to do with the bloodline inheritance of Lord Divine Ancestor, it can only be regarded as a supplement. It is enough to prove the value of the six-path inheritance." When Zhou Jie heard this, he couldn't help but nod his head in agreement. This was because he truly felt that the six paths of inheritance was extremely perfect and simply all-encompassing. It was impossible to say that one couldn't reach the Universe Emperor realm after learning all the six paths of inheritance. After that, Sacred Emperor Yi Gu chatted with Zhou Jie for a while, then said, "Then I won't disturb Your Highness. If Your Highness has something to do and needs to leave this place, you can use this item to find Ziyan. She will help Your Highness solve all your problems." "Thank you, Senior Sacred Emperor," Zhou Jie thanked. With that, the ancient Saint Emperor took a step forward and disappeared. Zhou Jie was the only one left in the hell-like crater. Zhou Jie looked around and sensed carefully. He found that he was standing on a huge rock protruding from the lava river below. Behind him was a long and narrow rock path that led to a rock platform in the distance. Behind the platform was a cliff that he couldn't see the top of. Apparently, it was the edge of the pit. The laws here are even more chaotic than the outside world. I can't control or comprehend them at all. First, I have to sort out the order of these laws, then start to understand and control them. That Rhodes' cultivation is only one level higher than mine, but he can control the laws of Source. He must be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort if he cultivates here. As for Huang Yi's words about comprehending the origin of the laws of the universe, he must be referring to comprehending these chaotic laws, right? Previously, when I used the extraordinary power, I haven't been able to fully comprehend and absorb the many laws in my memory. Now I can try to digest them. These thoughts flashed through Zhou Jie's mind. Then, he threw away the distracting thoughts, sat down cross-legged on the ground, and decided to comprehend the laws here. Zhou Jie didn't think about cultivating the 6 paths of reincarnation because he felt that his understanding of the 18 falls of staining clothes was enough for him to cultivate for a while. There was also the supernatural tower. After Zhou Jie became an imperial emperor, he had experienced a lot of things. Most of his time was spent on cultivation, so he didn't think about going to the tower. Now that he had settled down, Zhou Jie had decided that if he couldn't make any progress in comprehending the laws of the universe, he would go to the tower and have a real battle. Maybe he could even break through to the later stage of Imperial Emperor with the energy reward from the tower. Chapter 390. The blow that Rodrith gave Zhou Jie could be said to be unprecedented. This made Zhou Jie realize how weak he was once again. Even if he could fight above his level, he could at most fight against late-stage Imperial Emperors. If he encountered a peak Imperial Emperor, he could at most protect himself. On the other hand, if Rodrith attacked with his full strength, even an ordinary perfected Imperial Emperor would not be his match. This was the grace that a holy son should have. Zhou Jie was ashamed of his inferiority, so he decided to work hard. Sitting cross-legged and meditating, Zhou Jie wholeheartedly immersed himself in comprehending the laws. Immediately, the chaotic universe origin laws in the surrounding environment became clear in his mind. Among all cultivation, the most boring and tedious was comprehending the laws. It was like an ordinary person looking at countless math problems that they could not understand at all. They had to look at them over and over again to find the clues, to solve the problem, and finally solve the problem. Comprehending the chaotic fundamental laws of the universe was countless times more difficult than comprehending ordinary laws. If one had to make an analogy, comprehending ordinary laws was like solving countless difficult math problems. When one comprehended them to the extreme, one would have to solve all the related problems and come up with the ultimate definition, which was similar to a universal formula. Comprehending the fundamental laws of the universe, on the other hand, required one to piece together the problems and then solve them on one's own. The difference in difficulty between the two seemed insignificant, but the gap was actually unimaginable. Take Rodrith for example. Although he could comprehend the universe origin laws, what he had comprehended was not even the tip of the iceberg of the true origin laws. He had only comprehended the universe origin laws. Even if it was only a little, it was equivalent to laying the foundation for all the other ordinary laws. Comprehending all the ordinary laws was a strategic position, so the attainments in the laws that Rodrith displayed were so high that it made one's hair stand on end. Although Zhou Jie was very patient, at the beginning of the second month of trying to comprehend the universe origin laws, he could not help but frown when he still did not gain anything. Of course, this was a matter of course. After all, although Zhou Jie's talent was high, he had relied more on his own efforts and lucky chances to reach his current cultivation. As for comprehending the laws, it all depended on one's talent and perception. In this aspect, even if Zhou Jie could be called outstanding, he was far from being a monstrous genius. Someone like Alderus, who had such a high level of perception, was one of a kind. In terms of comprehending the laws, Zhou Jie simply couldn't compare. One day, about 2 months later, Zhou Jie suddenly opened his eyes from meditation and muttered to himself, "No, maybe the method is wrong?" For the past 2 months, he had been trying to comprehend the universe origin laws in this place, but it could be said that he did not make any progress at all. This was because he could not even begin to comprehend the universe origin laws in this place. It was like knowing that there was a mountain of treasures in front of you, but you could not see it or touch it, let alone pick the treasures you need. Zhou Jie frowned, and after pondering for a long time, he decided to temporarily give up on comprehending the universe origin laws. On the first day Zhou Jie started to comprehend the universe origin laws, Sacred Emperor Yi Gu's incarnation appeared in the Six Paths world and told Zhou Jie that there were three things he needed to focus on in his cultivation. The first was to cultivate the staining clothes 18 falls. The second was to comprehend the power of heart, and the third was to comprehend the universe origin laws. In fact, the comprehension of the universe origin laws was the same as the comprehension of the power of heart. Could not be forced. If one could not comprehend it, one would not be able to comprehend it even before death. When Sacred Emperor Yi Gu asked Zhou Jie to comprehend the universe origin laws in this lava pit, he was just trying his luck. If he could not comprehend the universe origin laws within a certain period of time, it would be impossible for him to comprehend the universe origin laws in this death seclusion. Only by experiencing it would there be a higher chance for him to comprehend the universe origin laws. Hence, Zhou Jie decided to start from the most practical way to improve his strength as soon as possible. Cultivating the staining clothes 18 falls was the most direct and effective way. The ancient divine emperor's soul avatar also told Zhou Jie that the transcendental tower corresponded to the 5 levels of the imperial emperor realm. The reward for passing each level was not just energy, but also enlightenment. The enlightenment was not only about the laws, but it was also helpful for the cultivation of the heart force. In order to pass through more levels of the supernatural tower, Zhou Jie had to further improve his combat ability. Zhou Jie had some understanding of the difficulty of passing through the levels of the supernatural tower. He knew that with his current strength, passing through the second level of the Imperial Monarch realm was his limit. But if it was Rodrath, then passing through the 4th level would probably be a cinch. This is indeed a good place to cultivate. Even if I don't cultivate laws, using the power of lava here to temper my body is still a good choice. After Zhou Jie made up his mind, he jumped up and entered the river of lava below. The moment he entered the lava river, the illusionary clothes on Zhou Jie's body disappeared instantly, and the shield transformation was also reduced to a point in front of his chest under his control. Zhou Jie learned from Sacred Emperor Yi Gu's incarnation that the deeper he went into the lava river, the more power of the law of fire there would be. Even the void at the edge of the river would be burned. What's more, the power of the law of thunder and lightning, which came from the world barrier, would be mixed with the power of the law of fire and lightning, which was even more powerful. Zhou Jie's staining 18 falls was a secret skill that relied on the power of the divine body. The higher the level of cultivation, the stronger the divine body would be. In the later stage, the requirement for the divine body would be even higher. That was why Zhou Tianwu once said that the martial arts and the divine body were inseparable, and the 6 paths of reincarnation were also inextricably linked. Regarding this point, the higher the level of cultivation Zhou Jie's cultivation, the deeper he would understand it. Zhou Jie's body had the foundation of cultivating the 9 changes of stars, which made him stronger than ordinary late-stage imperial emperors. The lava at the edge of the river did not make Zhou Jie feel any pressure at all. It was like a person soaking in a hot spring, and he would still feel a little cold. The cultivation of the divine body begins with condensing the divine body, and then changes the structure of the divine body. After that, one can only rely on external objects to strengthen the divine body. The formations and runes in the divine body can all be used to strengthen the divine body. However, my cultivation is still shallow, and I am still at the first step of the cultivation of the divine body. I don't have to think about the next step for now. Zhou Jie thought as he recalled the information he had received from the 6 paths of reincarnation. Then, he continued to walk deeper into the lava river. As Zhou Jie went deeper, his entire body was soaked in the lava river. As he walked, he constantly felt the pressure from the lava, and Zhou Jie's footsteps gradually slowed down. Zhou Jie walked forward unhurriedly for more than 2 hours, and he finally stopped at a certain moment. The laws of fire here are extraordinarily ferocious, and the destructive force of the lava is close to my limit. I'll temper my body here first. Zhou Jie sat down cross-legged in the lava and took the initiative to circulate his body to absorb the laws of fire that pressed down from all directions. His body quickly turned completely red, and it seemed like he would explode at any moment. Of course, this process was very painful, but to Zhou Jie, this kind of pain was nothing. His divine body absorbed the power of the law of fire without batting an eyelid, and as time passed, his absorption began to become somewhat unrestrained. Because Zhou Jie took the initiative to absorb the power of the law of fire to temper his body, a large amount of magma and flames formed a vortex around him, and rumbling sounds could be heard incessantly. After this continued for a few days, the flame vortex formed around Zhou Jie suddenly dissipated at a certain moment, revealing a bald Zhou Jie whose body was completely red. Zhou Jie did not remain in the same spot after opening his eyes. With a single movement, he headed deeper into the lava river. Time flew by, and over 5 years passed in the blink of an eye. Zhou Jie had also stayed in the lava river for a total of 5 years. On this day, Zhou Jie appeared at the end of the lava river, which was also the edge of the continent within the origin realm. He looked at the space not far away that had been scorched and the laws of lightning that had emerged from the cracks in space, and a gleam of light appeared in his eyes. The laws of fire and lightning come, Zhou Jie thought to himself as he approached the pale white flames that had almost burned into nothingness. There was an extremely small amount of black lightning within the flames, and it was a mixture of the laws of fire and lightning. The reason why Zhou Jie dared to directly absorb the laws of fire and lightning to temper his body was not because he was confident that his divine body would be able to withstand its power, but mainly because he had the shield transformation that could protect him at any time. In the past, his divine body had almost been unable to withstand the laws of fire, and he had relied on the shield transformation to resolve the crisis. Chapter 391. In the end, Zhou Jie still underestimated the might of the laws of thunder and fire. He only lasted for less than 3 days at the edge of the deep pit before he was injured because he was unable to withstand the thunder and fire that appeared from time to time. This forced him to temporarily stop refining his body. At this point, Zhou Jie recalled everything he had learned and realized that no matter which aspect of the 6 paths inheritance he learned, it was hard for him to improve in a short period of time. Even his understanding of the laws of lightning was stuck at a bottleneck. This made Zhou Jie feel helpless. Then, let's try the supernatural tower again. After making up his mind, Zhou Jie took out the 6 paths world and entered it. After entering the 6 paths world, Zhou Jie suddenly recalled that he once met a senior named Fan here. According to Kakashi, this senior was one of the 3 great transcendents of the Zhou clan's sacred ground. Back then, although Zhou Jie was shocked by this person's prowess, he didn't feel much about it. Now that he thought about it, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He had experienced the power of the transcendence before, but even such a strong transcendent was killed in the battle of the sacred ground. Subconsciously, Zhou Jie looked around. However, the 6 paths world was extremely vast, and all he could see was turbid light green scenery. His vision couldn't extend too far, and his senses couldn't extend too far. Zhou Jie wanted to meet Fan, but if Fan didn't come looking for him, it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. 6 paths pagoda, Zhou Jie thought and looked to the side. The majestic 6 paths pagoda appeared not far away. According to his memory, Zhou Jie took a step forward and disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, he was already in the third level of the Six Paths Pagoda. Zhou Tianwu seemed to have known that Zhou Jie was coming. He was already in the third level of the Six Paths Pagoda. When Zhou Jie saw him, he immediately said, "Senior Tianwu, this junior is here to challenge the supernatural tower. However, I suddenly thought of something and came here to ask." "Your Highness, please speak," Zhou Tianwu replied immediately. As a result, Zhou Jie voiced his doubts. "A few days ago, I used the primordial 8 strikes and released the primordial universe flame. Suddenly, I faintly felt that there seemed to be a force within the primordial 8 strikes that was suppressing its power?" The tone in which Zhou Jie said this showed that he himself was not sure if what he said was right. Before Zhou Jie finished speaking, he was surprised to see Zhou Tianwu's eyes light up, and he hurriedly said, "Your Highness, take out the Chaos 8 strikes and show it to me." Zhou Jie did as he was told. Zhou Tianwu did not touch the primordial 8 strikes, but a trace of golden light appeared in his eyes as he scanned the primordial 8 strikes from beginning to end. "I didn't expect Zhou Hengyu to seal the power of the 8 tribulations in it. Although there are only 2 tribulations left, it is enough for this saber to have a place among the emperor weapons of the universe," Zhou Tianwu said after seeing the 8 strikes of the primitive world. He was quite emotional. "The power of the 8 strikes? What is that?" Zhou Jie asked and couldn't help but ask. In response, Zhou Tianwu replied, "The 8 strikes is Zhou Hengyu's famous killing move. Back then, Zhou Hengyu cultivated the law of thunder and lightning, comprehended the power of various worlds, and cultivated several extremely powerful world tribulations. On this basis, he condensed the power of his own will and formed a formation to store it in his body. From this, it became the killing move of the 8 strike. When he first entered the Universe Emperor realm, he used this skill to fight against 2 Universe Emperor realm enemies at the same time, killing one and injuring the other. Since then, his killing move has become famous." After a pause, Zhou Tianwu looked at the primordial 8 strikes and continued, "In the primordial 8 strikes, there are 2 fully condensed world tribulations. Although it is not as powerful as the 2 strikes of the complete 8 strikes, it should have been left behind by Zhou Hengyu after he reached the Universe Emperor realm. If your Highness activates it, it is enough to kill any existence below the Universe Emperor realm. It is even enough to injure some Dao Fusion realm emperors." After listening to Zhou Tianwu's explanation, Zhou Jie was pleasantly surprised, and the way he looked at the primordial 8 strikes was brand new. Zhou Jie knew that the Dao Fusion realm Emperor realm referred to the first of the 3 realms of the Universe Emperor realm. A divine weapon that could kill a Dao Fusion realm Emperor realm expert was in his possession, so how could Zhou Jie not be happy? Just as Zhou Jie was feeling happy, Zhou Tianwu said, "But with your Highness's current cultivation, it is still unknown whether you can break the seal." When Zhou Jie heard this, he realized that he seemed to have been happy too early, because it was indeed as Zhou Tianwu had said. The power of 2 tribulations was sealed in the primordial 8 strikes by a force. Although the sealing force was far inferior to the power of 2 tribulations itself, it was definitely not weak. Zhou Jie had tried to break the seal, but it was to no avail. Later on, he did not dare to forcefully break it. However, Zhou Jie vaguely realized that the matter of breaking the seal was related to the primordial 8 strike. Perhaps he did not need to use brute force to break it. This junior understands. This junior is not in a hurry to break the seal. Zhou Jie replied and said, "Thank you, Senior Sky Marshal, for clearing my doubts. This junior plans to enter the supernatural tower first, and then come to Senior to cultivate the 18 falls of staining clothes." "All right, Your Highness, you can go first." Zhou Tianwu nodded in agreement. Zhou Jie nodded and left the Six Paths Pagoda's space. When he entered the supernatural tower again, Zhou Jie was teleported to the first level of the Imperial Lord realm. This was the place to test the strength of an elite imperial lord in the Holy Land. However, with Zhou Jie's current cultivation, the difficulty of the first level of the Imperial Monarch realm was still too low. In less than 20 seconds, Zhou Jie defeated his opponent and successfully passed through the first level of the Imperial Monarch realm. The reward for passing the first level was just as Zhou Tianwu had said. Not only was there an infusion of energy, but there was also guidance in the comprehension of the laws. When he was surrounded by the white light of the reward, Zhou Jie felt as if his entire body was filled with energy. Every strengthened cell in his body began to absorb energy crazily. As a result, his cultivation level quickly broke through from the peak of the middle stage Imperial Lord Realm to the late stage Imperial Lord Realm and gradually stabilized under the reward of the laws of the universe. However, the reward was far from over. Zhou Jie had already entered a wonderful state of comprehension. This was a creation comprehension that only those with extremely high comprehension of the laws could bestow upon those of the corresponding level. As for how much one could comprehend from it, it would depend on the person's comprehension and luck. An extremely huge milky white sphere appeared in Zhou Jie's mind. The sphere was very far away at first. From Zhou Jie's senses, it was the size of a star. Soon, Zhou Jie felt as if he was in a daze for a moment. The milky white sphere in the distance turned into a dazzling lightning ball and suddenly enlarged in front of Zhou Jie's eyes. Then, Zhou Jie clearly saw every bolt of lightning in the lightning ball rapidly enlarging in his vision. In just a few breaths, they shrank to the electronic level. At this moment, in Zhou Jie's eyes, there were only countless chaotic particles in front of him. They seemed to be crazily and irregularly under the push of an invisible force. This continued for a long time, until at some point in time, the countless particles continued to be magnified until they were as big as meteorite. Zhou Jie could also vaguely see the invisible force. It was like visible ripples in the air, pushing the particles to move. But at this moment, Zhou Jie could see that the particles seemed to have a fixed pattern in their movement. Space-time. Zhou Jie suddenly realized what the transparent power that looked like ripples in the air was. Just as he was thinking about it, he felt a sharp pain for no reason. This sharp pain came from his soul, similar to the pain of his brain being gradually torn apart. It was unbearable for Zhou Jie. Under such pain, everything in front of Zhou Jie's eyes began to blur rapidly, and the pain receded like a tide until Zhou Jie's vision turned black, and the pain completely disappeared. When Zhou Jie opened his eyes again, he found that his body was still receiving the infusion of reward energy, but it was already coming to an end. His cultivation level had completely stabilized at the late Imperial Lord realm. Feeling the obvious increase in the energy level of his body, Zhou Jie resisted the urge to roar and allowed his body to continue receiving the energy on its own. His consciousness was immersed in the comprehension of the scene his soul had just seen 3 days later. Zhou Jie's body had finished receiving all the reward energy, and his body involuntarily emitted waves of power fluctuations. His consciousness was still immersed in the comprehension of the laws, and he did not wake up until 7 years later. Chapter 392. After Zhou Jie woke up from his enlightenment, he sat cross-legged in the supernatural tower and was silent for a long time. Then, he nodded as if he had understood something. Then, with a thought, he took out the primordial 8 slashes. Zhou Jie gently stroked the primordial 8 slashes for a moment and carefully sensed the powerful power contained within. The primordial 8 slashes contained the primordial universe flames that had the power to burn the sky and boil the sea. Zhou Jie had only been releasing them with brute force, so the amount he triggered had always been very small. Controlling the primordial universe flames naturally required the power of the law of fire. Although the law of fire was Zhou Jie's best law other than the law of lightning, His comprehension level was not much worse than the law of space. Previously, it was not enough to support Zhou Jie's control of the primordial universe flames. However, hundreds of years had passed. Zhou Jie had experienced extraordinary powers, the enlightenment guidance rewarded by the supernatural tower, and his own accumulation. At this moment, he suddenly had a brand new understanding of the law of fire. Almost at the moment Zhou Jie touched the primordial 8 slashes, he had an uncontrollable urge to release the primordial universe flames. However, Zhou Jie resisted this desire because he still had to continue sensing. He did not want his sudden enlightenment to be destroyed. This was a situation that was second only to an epiphany. The longer he continued, the more he would gain. At a certain moment, a glint flashed in Zhou Jie's eyes. He suddenly soared into the sky, and a large amount of light blue flames appeared around him. These flames danced as if they were celebrating, and gradually, some of them turned white. They constantly appeared and exploded outside Zhou Jie's body like bubbles, but they did not cause any strong fluctuations. So that's how it is. Even though flames are explosive, they must possess the Tao of endless growth and multiplication. Only then would they be able to burn fiercely and incinerate everything in the end. Zhou Jie gazed at the flames that were ceaselessly flickering by his side, and his gaze was sharp as he spoke. Not long after, the flames surrounding Zhou Jie dissipated. With a thought, Zhou Jie arrived at the second level of the Transcendental Tower. Zhou Jie felt that if he hadn't broken through to the second level of the Imperial Monarch realm, then perhaps the opponents he created would be able to fight him in a stalemate. However, he was already an Imperial Monarch at the later stage of the Imperial Monarch realm now, and he'd broken through in the laws as well. However, the result was still out of Zhou Jie's expectations. The opponent on the second level was very powerful. Not only would he fall, but his movement technique was also extremely strange. It was much stronger than Zhou Jie's 3000 Thunders illusion body. Zhou Jie's attacks, many of his attacks. However, in terms of absolute strength, Zhou Jie was still much stronger than the opponent. Therefore, in the third minute of the battle, Zhou Jie successfully predicted with his saber and directly took the initiative. After a series of attacks, he directly eliminated his opponent. After obtaining the reward of the second level, Zhou Jie's cultivation level had increased to the late stage of the Imperial Emperor realm after more than 5 years. Once again, he was guided by the laws of Earth again, causing Zhou Jie's perception and comprehension of the essence of laws to become even deeper. This time, Zhou Jie had stayed on the second level for nearly 30 years. His comprehension of the laws of fire had undergone a qualitative leap, and it even vaguely surpassed his comprehension of the laws of lightning. There are thousands of laws. Even if they seem to be unrelated laws, there are similarities between them. Reaching the Universe Emperor realm is equivalent to attaining a great law, but it's only a great law. Then, to become extraordinary, do I have to attain all the laws to the height of the Universe Emperor realm? Just thinking about it is terrifying. After another comprehension, Zhou Jie suddenly muttered to himself and shook his head with emotion. A moment later, Zhou Jie's thoughts stirred, and only a lingering voice was left on the spot. The third level, Zhou Jie's figure appeared on the third level of the Transcendental Tower. He took a deep breath and quickly suppressed the trace of nervousness in his heart. Instead, it was replaced by an unyielding battle intent. In fact, Zhou Jie couldn't help but be nervous because the third level was set according to the cultivation level of a peak late-stage Imperial Emperor. Moreover, the opponent's strength could surpass the standard of a peak late-stage Imperial Emperor. The opponent also had various secret techniques of the Zhou Holy Land. Even if Zhou Jie was confident that he could defeat an ordinary peak late-stage Imperial Emperor or even a peak Imperial Emperor, he wasn't absolutely confident that he could defeat the opponent on the third level. I wonder how powerful that move will be with my current strength, Zhou Jie muttered in his heart. At the same time, he saw a black shadow that was identical to him appear in front of him. In the next second, the battle was about to begin. Zhou Jie directly took out the primordial 8 slashes. After using the 9 star transformations, he slashed out and caused lightning and fire to appear in all directions. The illusory opponent also attacked instantly. The weapon it used was the illusory primordial 8 slashes. It had the same power and effect as the main body in Zhou Jie's hand. Bang! After a collision, both sides retreated quickly. Zhou Jie only felt a huge force that almost numbed his hands. As he retreated, he cooperated with the Chasing Stars and Moon to execute the 3000 Thunders illusory body. At the same time that Zhou Jie executed his movement technique, the illusory body instantly disappeared as it retreated. In the next moment, it transformed into hundreds of illusory bodies that appeared from various spatial angles, sealing off all the space that Zhou Jie's thousands of illusory bodies could move about in. Zhou Jie wasn't too surprised by such an unbelievable movement technique, because the second level of the illusory body was executed with this movement technique. However, the third level of the illusory body was even more terrifying. This movement technique based on the law of space is really powerful. I'll learn it when I have the chance, Zhou Jie thought. Thousands of illusory bodies were forced to disappear. After the main body appeared, it directly slashed out in all directions, disrupting the movement technique of the illusory body with its absolute strength. However, this disruption was not enough to break the movement technique of the illusory body. As soon as the wave of the sweeping movement weakened, the illusory body appeared beside Zhou Jie like a ghost and slashed down. Zhou Jie's reaction ability was needless to say. At that time, he held his saber horizontally to defend. While he was hit and retreated, the shield transformation on the surface of his body trembled and removed the part of the power that he couldn't defend. If I learn this movement technique, I can also fight with roads, Zhou Jie thought. His body's reaction was still not slow, and he continuously blocked several attacks of the illusory body. However, in this way, Zhou Jie fell into a disadvantageous position. For a while, it seemed difficult for him to fight back. He was continuously suppressed by the illusory body and was quite embarrassed. Fortunately, Zhou Jie knew what was going on and didn't panic at all. His defense was watertight, and he was always actively looking for a chance to counterattack. Half a minute into the battle, the illusory body's eyes suddenly lit up, and a powerful soul attack descended on Zhou Jie. This was the first time Zhou Jie had encountered an opponent who could use soul attacks in the supernatural tower. Previously, all his opponents were unable to use soul attacks and were immune to soul attack. Now, Zhou Jie's opponent's illusory body could use soul attacks, which meant that it could be destroyed by soul attacks. However, Zhou Jie's current weakness could be said to be his soul. This did not mean that his soul power was weak at the same level. On the contrary, Zhou Jie's soul power was also comparable to a peak Imperial Emperor. Moreover, with the protection of the heart-cleansing bell, even an ordinary perfected Imperial Emperor's soul attack would find it difficult to hurt Zhou Jie. The reason why Zhou Jie's soul was relatively weak was mainly because he was not proficient in soul attacks. He was not even proficient in basic illusion technique. In the end, it was because Zhou Jie's cultivation time was too short. After being attacked by the illusory body's soul attack, Zhou Jie's mind seemed to rumble for a moment. Fortunately, with the protection of the heart-cleansing bell, Zhou Jie immediately woke up. However, the illusory body seized this extremely short moment and slashed at Zhou Jie's glabella. Zhou Jie did not have time to make a perfect defense. He decisively chose to activate the shield transformation and condense it between his eyebrows. At the same time, he chose this opportunity to counterattack. Boom! The illusory body's slash landed between Zhou Jie's eyebrows. Zhou Jie felt a huge shock in his head. An unparalleled force penetrated the shield transformation and spread throughout his body, causing Zhou Jie to feel so uncomfortable that he wanted to vomit blood. Moreover, his entire body felt like it was being torn apart. This was also because he had the shield transformation a defense. Otherwise, Zhou Jie would have died even if he did not die from this attack. After all, the power of this slash could completely reach the attack of an ordinary peak Imperial Emperor. However, Zhou Jie was already prepared for this. He gritted his teeth to prevent his consciousness from collapsing. At the same time, Zhou Jie activated the primordial 8 slashes and began to counterattack. Boom! The primordial flames of the universe appeared, and the void distorted. The movement of the illusory body was immediately interrupted. Zhou Jie took the opportunity to exert all his strength to exert pressure on the illusory body. Then, he slashed out, the first slash of the limitless 100 slashes. Then, facing Zhou Jie's first slash, the illusory body struggled and cleverly avoided it. Zhou Jie was unmoved. The second slash was instantly followed by the first slash. This time, the illusory body could not dodge and chose to meet the attack with his saber. Zhou Jie was forced back, but his saber momentum did not stop. The third slash came out consecutively. The illusory body attacked with his saber and forced Zhou Jie back again. The fourth slash. The fifth slash. The sixth slash. Zhou Jie's slashes became more and more ferocious. Each slash was stronger than the previous one. Later, his saber momentum was like a tide that swept through half of the sky, forming an absolute suppression on the illusory body. The 30th slash, the illusory body's ultimate defense was broken, and it retreated in a sorry state. The 31st slash, the illusory body was severely injured. The 32nd slash, the illusory body was destroyed. However, Zhou Jie's saber momentum continued to strengthen. He slashed out the 33rd slash without stopping. 34, 35, 36, 50. Chapter 393. 50 slashes were already Zhou Jie's limit. After the 50th slash, Zhou Jie felt as if all the strength in his body had been sucked out. Even his soul power was almost depleted. Every slash was executed with his soul and body in sync. His soul power needed to control the laws, and the burden was no less than that of his body. Zhou Jie was so weak that he could not even fly in the air. Soon, he landed on the ground. The power of Zhou Jie's last slash surged into the distant void like a wave of flames. However, it quickly disappeared due to the strange power of the supernatural tower's space. As a result, Zhou Jie was not affected at all. Immediately after, the supernatural tower's reward arrived. A dazzling milky white light fused into Zhou Jie's body. Zhou Jie immediately felt his entire body tremble. Endless energy surged into his body, causing his almost withered body to recover rapidly. The reward for passing the 3rd level was enormous, and it took more than 10 years to instill the energy. In the end, Zhou Jie's cultivation level completely advanced from the late-stage Imperial Lord Realm to the late-stage Imperial Lord Realm and even reached the peak. However, this time, Zhou Jie did not wake up from the guidance of the laws until the energy infusion ended. Clearly, the comprehension he obtained this time was even better than the second time. It could be said that the 3 rewards of the supernatural tower had more than doubled Zhou Jie's comprehension of laws. In other words, Zhou Jie's accumulation of laws for nearly 2,000 years could not compare to the comprehension he obtained from the 3 rewards. Furthermore, the 2,000 years before that included the comprehension of extraordinary power. Of course, the comprehension of laws brought to Zhou Jie by extraordinary power could be said to account for more than half of his comprehension in the past 2,000 years. Moreover, there were many comprehensions of laws that Zhou Jie could not understand at that time. With the help of the 3 rewards, Zhou Jie comprehended many of them. This was also the main reason why he had such a huge gain in comprehending laws this time. One day, 50 years later, Zhou Jie opened his eyes. To everyone's surprise, his eyes were no longer black and white. Instead, one of his eyes was burning with blue flames, while the other flashed with white lightning. Formations. So it can be said that they are a kind of interpretation of the natural order itself. The natural order has its own essence, and it also has its own rules of movement. Formations are the mediums that bring out the power of the natural order. No wonder the 6 Tao legacies have the divine armament Tao. It seems a little unorthodox, but in fact, it is an innovation and confirmation of the other 5 Taos. In order to bring out the power of the other 5 Taos, they have to experience the divine armament Tao. As Zhou Jie spoke, the flames and lightning in his eyes gradually disappeared, turning into 2 complicated marks that were hidden deep within his eyes. After more than 50 years of comprehending laws, Zhou Jie's comprehension realm could be said to have undergone another qualitative change. The biggest breakthrough, which made Zhou Jie feel proud of himself, was that he had connected the natural order with the formations of the divine armament Tao. He had also seen the essential connection between the two, which had greatly improved his attainments in formations. More importantly, Zhou Jie used his comprehension of the 2 laws of lightning and fire as the foundation to create a move of his own. This move could be said to be 2 moves that achieved the same result by different means. The 2 marks in Zhou Jie's eyes represented the law of fire and the law of lightning. These 2 seals could actually be said to be miniature formations. When they were executed, they absorbed the might of the heavens and the earth and could erupt with an extremely impressive destructive force. In particular, these 2 seals could be fused together to attack, and their might could be increased by several times. It was sufficient to be Zhou Jie's ultimate trump card. In the end, Zhou Jie named these 2 marks the Burning Sky Mark and the Extreme Thunder Mark respectively. The ultimate move that combined the 2 marks was called the Heavenly Thunder Purple Phoenix Mark. Zhou Jie did not actually think carefully about the reason why he named it this way. He just remembered that when he played online games with Kakashi, there was a treasure with this name that just happened to contain the meaning of thunder and fire. P.S. Phoenix itself can represent fire, and purple represents the color of thunder and lightning. With a thought, Zhou Jie left the supernatural tower and went to the 3rd floor of the 6 Paths Pagoda. After seeing this, Zhou Tianwu's eyes lit up slightly, and a smile appeared on his face as he said, "Congratulations, Your Highness, on your progress in cultivation." Zhou Jie was naturally not surprised that Zhou Tianwu could see the changes in him. His expression softened and he nodded. "I have some gains in the path of law. However, I met an opponent not long ago. His cultivation was similar to mine, but he was so strong that even if I fought him now, I am not confident that I could win. This made me realize that I still have a long way to go. Next, please continue to train me with the 18 staining falls." Hearing Zhou Jie's words, Zhou Tianwu nodded again with relief and promised, "Okay, as long as Your Highness has the heart, I believe that Your Highness will achieve transcendence and even become a saint one day." After saying that, Zhou Tianwu paused for a while and said, "There is one more thing that I think I can tell Your Highness now so that Your Highness can prepare early. Your Highness has a trace of the divine ancestor's bloodline power in your body, which is rated as Emperor Universe. Originally, if the Sacred Land was still around, Your Highness could awaken the bloodline power in the Sacred Land when you become an Imperial Emperor. Your Highness could also use the Cosmic Origins power to comprehend and create your own secret technique. However, now that the Sacred Land is gone, it will be very difficult for Your Highness to awaken the bloodline power. Especially when the concentration of the bloodline in Your Highness' body is too low, it will be even more difficult for Your Highness to awaken the bloodline power naturally. Not long ago, I discussed this matter with the Ancient One and planned to awaken your Highness as soon as possible. After thinking about it, I thought of a way, and that is to let your Highness cultivate a divine body Tao forbidden technique called Blood Sea Tactic. Using the power of the Blood Sea to attack your Highness' original blood, including the pressure on your soul origin, there is a high chance that your Highness will awaken the Divine Ancestor's bloodline power in advance. Zhou Jie couldn't help but be stunned when he heard this, and he couldn't help but ask in puzzlement, Senior, since I started cultivating until now, the blood in my body can be said to have been completely replaced. Is the power of the sacred ancestors' bloodline still exists? Zhou Tianwu couldn't help but laugh at Zhou Jie's question and replied, the divine ancestors' bloodline power originates from the law of sainthood. It is unimaginably magical. As long as a trace of your true spirit exists, the bloodline power won't disappear after your resurrection. At most, it will decrease again. I see. Then why is Blood Sea Tactics listed as a divine body Tao forbidden technique? Zhou Jie asked again after understanding the first question. Zhou Tianwu said, this is what I'm going to explain to your Highness. The reason Blood Sea Tactics is listed as a forbidden technique is not because of the drawbacks of cultivating it, but because it requires a large amount of killing to obtain the blood of powerful creatures to condense the Blood Sea. It can be said that it is a demonic technique, so it is listed as a forbidden technique in the Zhou sacred land. Without special reasons, it cannot be cultivated. This time, I had no choice but to let your Highness cultivate it. You need to kill powerful creatures to obtain their blood to cultivate this technique? Zhou Jie couldn't help but frown when he heard Zhou Tianwu's words, but he quickly relaxed. Zhou Jie wasn't someone who killed indiscriminately. He couldn't do it if he wanted to kill a large number of innocent creatures to cultivate Blood Sea Tactic. However, if it was some ferocious beasts or cultivators from evil forces in the universe, he wouldn't mind killing them to cultivate Blood Sea Tactics. As if considering Zhou Jie's attitude, Zhou Tianwu added, there is no rush to cultivate Blood Sea Tactics. Your Highness can slowly kill and accumulate blood to cultivate. Furthermore, your Highness only needs to condense one level of Blood Sea to perfection. This can be done with some time, and it won't be too difficult. It won't delay your Highness's daily cultivation. Your Highness will understand when you find Zhou Jie to teach you the technique later. Yes, I will listen to Senior. Seeing that Zhou Tianwu had put it this way, Zhou Jie naturally had no reason to refuse and immediately agreed. Now that the matter was over, Zhou Jie began the training of the 18 Falls. This time, Zhou Jie was even more determined than before, and he stayed on the 3rd level for 9 years in a row. This wasn't 9 years of comprehending the laws, but 9 years of being severely beaten. Under Zhou Tianwu's constant, passive counterattacks, Zhou Jie was sent flying no less than 100,000 times. During this period, he fell to the ground and couldn't get up more than a dozen times. It was hard to imagine how amazing Zhou Jie's perseverance was. In these 9 years, he exceeded his upper limit of resistance time and time again. No matter how great the pain was, it didn't make him lose his fighting spirit, let alone cause him to shrink back. Even Zhou Tianwu was moved by Zhou Jie's hard work and perseverance. However, he held back from praising Zhou Jie and continued to mercilessly beat Zhou Jie black and blue. However, it was also under such a devilish training mode that Zhou Jie's comprehension of the stained clothes 18 Falls became deeper and deeper. His progress could be said to be lightning fast. Chapter 394. When Zhou Jie fell to the ground for the 15th time and recovered, Zhou Tianwu took the initiative to stop the training and allowed Zhou Jie to comprehend on his own. Zhou Jie also had the same intention, so he agreed and began to organize the knowledge he gained from the past few years of training. He also looked for flaws to improve. A few months later, Zhou Jie made a breakthrough that could be called an epiphany. However, it was not about the staining clothes 18 falls, but about the 9 stars transformations that he had previously cultivated. Before this, Zhou Jie thought that he had achieved great success in the 9 stars transformations. Although that was indeed the case, the great success was not the limit. The epiphany this time allowed Zhou Jie to have a thorough understanding of the essence of the 9 stars transformations. As a result, the 9 stars transformations could be said to have reached a perfect state. It was not inferior to the original creator at all. Previously, I felt that the 9 stars transformations was a little lacking, but with the strength of my physical body, there is still a big gap between me and the true 9 stars transformations. Only now do I realize that my cultivation is still not mature enough. The true 9 stars transformations requires an endless stream of stellar energy that resonates with the stars when attacking. Only then can I rely on the strength of my physical body to shatter the stars. Zhou Jie recalled the enlightenment of the 9 star transformations in his heart, and couldn't help but feel comfortable all over. This kind of feeling of having a breakthrough in comprehension and a great improvement in strength was much more intense than the feeling of having one's strength improve through bitter cultivation. Seeing that Zhou Jie had woken up, Zhou Tianwu couldn't help but ask, "Your Highness, how do you feel?" Zhou Jie heard the question and quickly replied, "I feel that the divine body training this time has reached the limit of my current body. Next, I would like to cultivate in the other 5 paths." "Yes, of course." Zhou Tianwu immediately nodded. Then, Zhou Jie bade farewell and went to the first floor of the 6 Paths Pagoda. There, he met Zhou Miaodi. "Your Highness, are you here to learn the Blood Sea secret?" As soon as Zhou Jie appeared, Zhou Miaodi calmly asked. Hearing that, Zhou Jie hurriedly nodded and continued, "But aside from that, I also want to learn a new divine body secret technique. Is that possible?" From Zhou Jie's point of view, the stained clothes 18 falls had a very high requirement for his divine body. Just the strength of his divine body from cultivating the 9 transformations of the stars was already insufficient for him to use it. Thus, he urgently needed a secret technique to continue strengthening his divine body. In response to Zhou Jie's request, Zhou Miaodi readily agreed, "Of course you can. I have already prepared the next step in the cultivation of the divine body for your Highness, the Great Sun Transformation Divine Art. This art is also the foundation of one of the Holy Land's saint techniques, the indestructible demon body. The Great Sun Transformation Divine Art is not difficult to cultivate, but it is extremely dangerous. Many people have even had their physical bodies destroyed and only their souls were left. In the end, they had no choice but to recultivate their divine body. The gains do not make up for the losses. However, your Highness, as a holy son, must cultivate the indestructible demon body. Thus, the Great Sun Transformation Divine Art must be cultivated." Saint technique, indestructible demon body? This was the first time Zhou Jie had heard of a saint technique, so he could not help but repeat his question. In response, Zhou Miaodi quickly explained, "The Zhou Holy Land has a myriad of mystic technique. There are many rare techniques that can drive existences at the Universe Emperor realm and above crazy. However, there are only 7 that can be hailed as saint technique. The first is my Divine Body Path's indestructible demon body. The second is the 3rd chapter of the Divine Martial Path's Heart Force mystic technique, which is also the final chapter, Void World. The third is the Divine Martial Path's Galactic Shatter. The fourth is the Divine Might Path's Divine Array technique. The third is the Divine Might Path's Galactic Collapse. The fourth is the Divine Might Path's Divine Array technique. The third is the Divine Might Path's Divine Array technique. The third is the Divine Might Path's Myriad techniques to connect the heavens. The fifth is the Divine Strategy Path's Myriad techniques to connect the heavens. The sixth is the Divine Escape Path's Nirvana. The seventh is the divine ancestors' inquiry of the origins that only Transcendence holy lords can cultivate. This was the first time Zhou Jie had clearly heard of the Zhou Holy Land's 7 great saint techniques. His heart was rather shaken. He could not help but recall the ultimate mystery of the divine techniques he had used to kill sulfuri, the cycle of life and death. Even now, Zhou Jie felt like he was dreaming back then. He had actually killed sulfuri with a single glance. It must be known that even with Zhou Jie's current cultivation, it was almost impossible for him to kill an initial stage monarch with a single glance. Although sulfuri's strength had fallen to the demonic lord rank at that time, how great was the difference between Zhou Jie's cultivation back then and his current cultivation? Being able to kill sulfuri with a single glance could indeed be considered a miracle in the universe. When he thought about how even an abnormal secret technique like the staining 18 falls could not be called a saint technique, Zhou Jie was filled with longing for a saint technique. However, he knew that with his current cultivation, it was still insufficient for him to cultivate and master any of the saint techniques. Therefore, he did not think of biting off more than he could chew and asked to cultivate all of the saint technique. He immediately nodded and said, "Thank you for telling me, Senior. This junior will definitely strive hard to cultivate all of the saint techniques one day." Hearing Zhou Jie's words, Zhou Miaoti's calm face was still as tranquil as an ancient well. He nodded and said, "It's good that Your Highness has such intentions. I also hope to see Your Highness cultivate the indestructible demon body one day. At that time, no one under the transcendent realm would be able to kill Your Highness." Hearing this, Zhou Jie could not help but be moved. However, he understood that when Zhou Miaoti spoke of cultivate the indestructible demon body, he definitely meant great success. At that time, his cultivation would definitely be at the Universe Emperor realm. Therefore, he suppressed the trace of excitement and longing in his heart and nodded in agreement. In the next few months, Zhou Jie learned the Blood Sea secret and the Great Sun transformation art from Zhou Miaoti. In Zhou Jie's opinion, the Blood Sea secret was indeed not difficult to cultivate, and the Great Sun transformation art was also not that difficult to cultivate. However, the cultivation of the Blood Sea secret required one to disintegrate every cell of the divine body and then reconstruct it. There were even some that required one to detonate the divine body to obtain a powerful transformation of the divine body. If one was not careful while cultivating, it could indeed lead to the destruction of the divine body. However, Zhou Jie only learned the basics. Afterwards, he went to the second floor to find Zhou Jihuan. After 1,000 years, Zhou Jie still did not dare to easily look at Zhou Jihuan. This was because Zhou Jihuan cultivated the Soul Dao. The invisible soul attraction she emitted was extremely powerful, causing people to have an endless favorable impression of her. If she was willing, with Zhou Jihuan's little bit of cultivation, he would directly fall for her. Coupled with her figure and appearance that was enough to make men fall head over heels for her, it really gave Zhou Jie a lot of pressure. Fortunately, this time, Zhou Jihuan did not tease Zhou Jie like the first time. After learning that Zhou Jie wanted to continue cultivating the secret art of heart force, Zhou Jihuan gladly agreed. Once again, she tested Zhou Jie with illusions, allowing him to cultivate and comprehend the secret art of heart force. After staying in the Soul Dao for more than 4 years, Zhou Jie had gained a lot. His soul force had made great progress, but unfortunately, he still could not comprehend the heart force, let alone condense the supreme consciousness. Not long after meeting the ancient divine emperor, he knew that the supreme consciousness in the origin land was left by the ancient divine emperor. Through this, he learned everything that had happened in the origin land. Zhou Jie and the other two were helped by the supreme consciousness twice. In fact, it was the ancient divine emperor who helped them and finally let the blood beast tentacles bring them to him. Zhou Jie had seen the power of the Supreme Consciousness with his own eyes, and naturally, he was fascinated by it. After that, Zhou Jie went to the level of the Divine Might Path Pagoda. After staying there for more than 50 years, he went to the level of the Divine Might Path Pagoda. In the level of the Divine Might Path Pagoda, Zhou Jie stayed there for more than 1,000 years. In the past, Zhou Jie would not have so much patience to study the Divine Might Path. In his opinion, the Divine Might Path was not as good as the other 5 Daos. It was also quite useless. Cultivating it required a lot of brain power and time. If he had more time, he would rather cultivate the other 5 Daos. However, ever since he had a major breakthrough in his comprehension of the laws, which allowed Zhou Jie to understand the relationship between the laws and the Divine Might Path, he paid more attention to the Divine Might Path. In Zhou Jie's opinion, studying the Divine Might Path was equivalent to studying the laws. Moreover, it was using a specific method to comprehend the abstract laws. It was an unimaginable help to his comprehension of the laws, so how could he not pay attention to it? It was precisely because of this that Zhou Jie spent more than 1,000 years studying the Divine Might Path. As a result, not only did he have further attainments in formations, but he also had more or less understanding and research on talismans, inscriptions, divination, restrictions, and so on. The wonders of restrictions moved Zhou Jie quite a bit, so he spent a few hundred years to study them. In the end, he had achieved some small success in this area. In the end, of course, Zhou Jie went to the level of the Divine Escape Path Pagoda. There, he cultivated a new movement technique. As the movement techniques used by the opponents in the Divine Escape Path Pagoda were quite good, Zhou Jie felt that they were quite good. Thus, he specially learned this secret art from Zhou Jie, the time and space displacement. And when Zhou Jie finished his cultivation in the 6 paths and left the 6 paths world, it had been exactly 2,300 years since he came from. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.